ลก 11 พฤศจิกายนนี้ PUBG New State เปิดให้เล่นพร้อมกันทั่วโลก 11 พฤศจิกายนนี้
เ Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the AOC Masters Tournament 2021. We're here for the regional finals. My name's John P. I'm joined by the lovely Imperial, man. We've got a lot of competition for you today here at the AOC Masters 2021 Tournament. Let's just start things off by talking about the prize pool itself. The prize pool here up for grabs is $43,000 and will feature teams and representatives from loads of different regions of Taiwan, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and the Oceania regions. And we're going to kick things off today. And we're running right through to Sunday on the 7th of November. Now, Imperium, first off, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very good. I'm all washed, dressed, I'm up. It's early in the morning here. We're in the same time zone, and hey, we're ready to have some fun, and I'm super excited about this because all of the teams, bar the Oceanic teams, have all played on their own country's qualifiers, whether it's Chinese Taipei, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's Malaysia, and they've all made it through to these regional finals. And yeah, okay, a good few of these teams might have experience against each other through the likes of the official PUBG Mobile qualifying system and the esports ecosystem, but at the end of the day, over these 24 games across the 6 days, should I say, we're going to see a lot of changes, a lot of action, and I'm really looking forward to see what storylines we can develop throughout those games.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And you know what, talking about teams, let's take a little look at what amount of teams from each region there are going to be allocated per region. So across the board, from Vietnam, we have got 3 teams. From the Philippines, we have got 3 teams. From the Chinese Taipei region, we have got 2 teams. Indonesia is 2 teams, Malaysia 2, Oceania 2, and the Thailand region 2 teams as well. But one thing to mention here, I know this took your eye in particular as well, Imperium, is that beautiful strip of text at the bottom of your screens at home, guys. The chicken dinner rule is in effect.
I am not a fan of it, and I know a lot of teams are not a fan of it, but it is what it is, and you have to be able to adapt. So it's pretty obvious the team with the most chicken dinners becomes the winner. If 2 teams have, of course, the same amount of chicken dinner winners, it's a team with the higher amount of kill points to come into play. So yes, being able to grab kills is to an extent important, but it's all about being first place in these games. It's all about getting that golden goose, that golden egg, that golden chicken dinner, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and speaking of wanting to be first place, you definitely want to be first place in terms of the way our prize pool is going to break down for you. Not only will you pick up $3,000 beautiful $, you'll also grab yourself some brand new peripherals for your gaming setups at home. We're talking a keyboard, mouse, headset, and a brand new AOC monitor for the players taking home first place. It's exactly the same, but unfortunately you minus $1,000 and minus the mouse for second, and across third and fourth place it's $1,000 as well as a mouse, a headset, and a brand new AOC monitors. And to be honest with you, Imperial, I'm not too sure what these players would want more out of the prize pool, the cash itself or the peripherals.
Sometimes getting that kind of the free monitor that you can look at every day and look at beautifully, because we know the AOC monitors are pretty damn high quality, sometimes does feel a lot better than the cash. Yeah, okay, you can spend the money on what you want, but a free gift is a free gift, and they'll take that right to the bank. We'll also take a look right to the bank at the list of teams that we have playing in these regional finals. There's some absolutely glorious names, John. The 2 that stand out the most has to be Bao, Nam United, and the side of Fury.
Yeah, one thing they stand out for is, of course, they're going to be heading to PGC, if I'm correct, as well, Imperium, slightly later at the end of the month or the start of December. So those are 2 teams you've got to definitely, if you're a betting man, and hate to admit, sometimes I very much myself, you'll be definitely putting your money on the likes of Battlegrounds United or the squad of Team Fury. And these are 2 teams that definitely are going to have the upper advantage in terms of high level caliber of player consistency. I think we were talking a little bit before the start of the broadcast, Imperium, and one stat you said was Team Fury over the past year, they've been so consistent.
They really have, across the global kind of qualification process for the end of year global championship. They've been up to the plate in terms of results, 4th, 2nd. They've just always been up there. They're a quality team driven by their IGL insight. But you can also see that, you know, all of the commentators across the languages, English, Thailand, Chinese and Vietnamese, they all had their teams to pick. You went for an obvious one. I get that. You want the safe bet. But I went for a little bit of an underdog. I went for E-Arena just to be a bit of an underdog.
Hey, listen, it's the first time I'm here on AOC Masters, so I've got to try and convince the people at AOC. I somewhat know what I'm talking about, so definitely you've got to go for one of the favourites in Battlegrounds United for sure. Surprised that we've only seen 2 picks from the 2 Vietnamese casters for Team Fury. I thought they would have had a little bit more respect across the board, but nevertheless, though, there are some very good picks across the languages for our broadcast lineups, and we'll have to wait and see who comes out on top. I'm looking at my boy Vu and Nambi. We're going to reign supreme for the squad of BN United, hopefully, but lots to get through, and lots of games in particular to get through today. If I am correct, we are going to be playing 4 games throughout the day, Imperium. So it's a nice number of games, because sometimes in different tournaments we might see 6 or 7 games in one day, and it can turn into a very long day for the players. But we're going to be playing 4 matches, and we're going to kick things off on the OG map itself. We're heading to Erangel.
Oh yes, the hollow grounds where it all began so innocently for player-unknown Battlegrounds back in 2017 or so, and it's the map that the team should be familiar with the most. Yes, it's evolved a little bit here or there. You've seen a couple of stylistic changes, a couple of kind of rough dip area changes across the evolution of the map, but it's the area, it's a map where the team should be most familiar with when it comes to rotational path lines, to positionings within these circles, what is generally stronger, depending on your playstyle, of course. So I'm really looking forward to Erangel, but I'm also a big fan of Miramar. I kind of prefer it from a strategical standpoint, from a positional standpoint, in terms of how these teams are able to spread themselves out, scout throughout the Miramar map. So I'm really excited to check out how these teams are going to perform in, of course, both of the maps.
Yeah, I think you made a great point in terms of, the strategical and tactical point of view to the map. Miramar, everyone kind of knows how to play Erangel. It's the OG map. It's been around for so long, although, like you mentioned, there has been a few tweaks here and there throughout the map, throughout the whole course of PUBG. I think Miramar's going to be one in particular, especially with that PUBG chicken dinner rule coming into play as well. So we got to add the passive play, of course, into the mixer here. It's obviously only day number 1, match 1 to 4. We're still getting things underway here at the AOC Masters Tournament 2021. So I definitely would suspect a quite slow start to play throughout the first few days. I think it's only going to be until the likes of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where people start to maybe panic a little bit and say, okay, we've got to kind of force the opponent's hands here and force the issue onto them. So starting off today, would you say we're going to see quite a slow pace play? If so, how's that going to play into certain teams' favours?
Yeah, so you make a really good point about that. Traditionally, at the start of tournaments and events, even if teams are massively familiar with each other, we do have that level of passive play where teams are feeling each other out, just kind of, feeling the flow of the games. Again, doesn't matter how experienced they are with each other, but the fact that you bring the chicken dinner rule on board, and yes, okay, it's a rule that's being played across the esports ecosystem for PUBG in 2021, so to an extent it's not new at this stage, but is still something we need to talk about, and it will indeed have a massive effect on how passive these teams are. It could fare into a team that wants to be that little bit more aggressive, to send a message to the teams around them, to try and create that little bit of a bully statement and really kind of manipulate the traffic as you get into the games. But for the most part, yes, I'm expecting a very passive, calculated start to this tournament.
Yeah, I think you made a great point in terms of there are a few players and teams, within the lineups that we're going to see and teams we'll see within this event that they are, you know, traditionally quite a fast-paced, aggressive type of team. They don't mind to contest a drop spot every now and then. They like to try and frag out straight off of spawn and from the get-go into zone 1. So the fact that we have this chicken dinner rule now is, of course, you can win the event and get... If you think about it logically, right, we're going to see, 4 games a day, 4 times 6, my mental maths isn't great, I think it's like 20 or 24 odd games, I think, across the week.
24.
You could, if you think about it logically, you could get 24 kills throughout the whole competition, and that one kill could be all 4 of your players left alive, and you win the game, and you will come out on the top spot and take home first place. Sorry. So it's one of those things where, how are we going to see these aggressive, you know, the notoriously fast-paced teams try and adapt to that slower style of play? Or are we going to say, look, we're so good at playing this way, we can obviously play this way against some of the biggest teams in our region and the world. Let's, even though we have this chicken dinner rule, let's still continue and stick to what we know and what we do best.
Yeah, of course. I'll always advocate for teams playing their own playstyle to the best of their strengths, right? Yes, you need to be adaptable. Yes, you need to be able to, you know, switch a rotation a little bit on a dime, especially when you get to kind of phase 4, phase 5, when you maybe have a massive circle shift against you, or you know for a fact that there's 3 or 4 teams around you. But never kind of step away from your own natural playstyle as a team, because then you're kind of going outside much further of your comfort zone. When you come into that kind of chicken dinner rule, it is all about kind of controlling that late game, and that's where the risk of an early game fight really kind of hurts a team a little bit, because they can get that squad wipe in the first 10-15 minutes of the game, but they could lose 1 or 2 players. You lose 1 or 2 players, John, and that's your loss in the ability of closing out the game, of controlling those final couple of circles. So again, it all lays into the fact that a passive start, yes, you might see a couple of teams take a couple of risks in the first couple of games, but I'm all about seeing where they feed each other out.
Yeah, I think you made a great point in terms of heading into those final few zones where the Blues starting to really like pretty much force these players as within touching distance of each other. Strength in numbers in any battle royale, but in particular PUBG is so vital. Whether it be just the fact that even if you use your teammate as a bit of bait and let him get knocked, as long as you trade the kill, it doesn't matter, right? That's especially if you see like a 2v1 situation, a 3v2 with the final 2 teams. Having strength in numbers is so vitally important, and we are just trying to get things up and ready for you guys. Hopefully we'll head into that first map on Orangle very soon for you guys. But one team I want to talk about slightly is the squad called from the Indonesia region, is called Team Extraordinaire. Now, they were recently known for being under the organization Siriu. I think I've said that right, Siriu Esports, where they finished back in PCS series number 5, 10th. However, they've come into this as the Indonesia Open qualifiers winners. So you got to say a little bit of momentum off the back of that is definitely going to flow into the veins of the players from Team Extraordinaire. And across the board, even if we're looking at the likes of PUBG Challenger Rumble Season 2 and Season 1, it's a full 5th place finish. So the squad of Team Extraordinaire, they have been quite consistently good in their own right. Maybe not so much in terms of the top 3 placements, top 2 placements, but I think they're definitely borderline here for making a little bit of noise going into the AOC Masters 2021. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. Are you expecting big things from the squad of Extraordinaire?
Yeah, when I was checking out a couple of the VODs in preparation for this with the APAC series, they're a team that can definitely hold their own, and especially in the later circles, I recognize their ability to really control the area in a big way, and I'm really glad you bring on board the kind of at least on paper, what looks like a consistency of results from this side. I don't know why they had a different name for the APAC, for the PGI 5, but at the end of the day, they're still a pretty stacked roster. Plus, they have kind of the best IGN player in this tournament, being perfectly honest. That's Baby Rage. Like, you look at Baby Rage on the kill feed, who isn't scared of a raging baby, right? It speaks for itself, but genuinely, they're a good team. I'm looking forward to watching them play and how they're going to adapt to this kind of lobby. One other thing to point out as well, John, with regard to the 2 teams that are going to be competing in the upcoming global championship. They are at the moment in Korea, and they are quarantining, so they're playing while self-quarantining, and I don't expect them to take these finals super seriously from a performance standpoint. But in the PGC, where you're going to have that chicken dinner rule come into effect on the weekdays to qualify for the weekly finals, they should be using this tournament to train their mentality, right? The stress, the pressure of really having to stay focused and get that win to make it into the weekly final. So I would really like to see them play these games as if it is the PGC, as if it is that game that they need to win to make it to the weekly finals.
Yeah, I literally, you've took the thought straight out of my mind and the words out of my mouth. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think, you couldn't have asked for a better time to have a little bit of practice at a competition and at quite a high level in terms of regional play for PUBG to try and get that mental... we talk about it in esports a lot, right? It doesn't matter how good a player is. You've got to have the right mentality to know when to do the right thing, when to do the wrong thing. And especially with the chicken dinner rule set in play as well, I think it's going to be very vital. The likes of Team Fury and Battlegrounds United try and get things down to a T, and we know how much they can frag out and how good they are as individual players, but it is whether or not they can just relax themselves a little bit when they need to and just play for that final zone and grab home that chicken dinner. But here we go then, ladies and gentlemen, we're headed into match number 1 as you are here watching the AOC Masters Tournament of 2021. It's regional finals time, baby. Day 1, match 1, map 1 of Arangel, and I'm excited for this. Imperium, I know you are, and what sort of drop spots are we going to be seeing off of the rip here?
It is definitely something where we didn't talk about too much, mainly because it's not something that I think comes into play too much with this kind of tournament, when a lot of these teams have experience against each other. Like I said, whether it's the PGS APAC qualifiers of 5 and 4 across this year, but we could see some hot drops. It's a good playing path. It's a little bit to the west, but it is that diagonal play where it should allow these teams to pretty much get to where they want to. Couple of early hot drops, possibly around Pachinki, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Other than that, Team Fury are heading to Ferry Pier. Normally, Team Fury kind of head towards the Yasnaya area, but I think because of the playing path and they're a little bit more comfortable going to coastline area of the map, they're just sticking to the Ferry Pier.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. One thing we mentioned as well, that obviously with PGC coming up, in particular the likes of Team Fury and Squad of Battlegrounds United as well, this would be a perfect spot to try and work on potentially some new landing spots, some new split zones, and even some new rotation paths, because let's face it, if you go into the PGC, you might have to change and adapt your play style to sort of suit the players around you. You might know, okay, we've got 4 or 5 of the best other teams in the world that usually, I think you said they usually land towards Yasnaya, if you're correct, right, which is sometimes quite a popular drop spot at high level play as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if they try to change up a few things today, practice a few different split drops, etc., just to try and make sure that going into the likes of PGC, things are all looking good.
Yeah, because in PGC, the way it's going to work on the weekly format, as far as I know, is that you're going to have the kind of 15 teams, 16 teams to begin with, and then when one team wins a game, another team will join into that lobby. So you're going to have the ever-changing shift of drop spots where you might be in the same lobby as a team that drops in the same place as you, or you might not. So having that secondary, if anything, that third drop spot is just as important. So you're dead right about a potential practice for Fury dropping in Ferry Pier.
Yeah, I do believe we are going to have a quick break before we get into the first game itself, actually. So that's myself and Imperial. So we were just like, let's get into the PUBG action as quickly as possible. But we are going to take a quick 5 or 6 minutes break. But when you guys come back and you see our 2 beautiful faces on the screen, it means it's map 1 and it's Arangel time, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the AOC Masters Tournament 2021 Regional Finals. We're going to be jumping straight back into the game. We do apologise about the short and snappy jump to the break. We thought we was slightly ready sooner than we expected to be. I think one of the players had a few issues, but we're back here jumping into match number 1. My name is John P. I'm joined by the lovely Imperium. And Imperium, before that slight little break, we were taking a little look at the drop spots, discussing the likes of Team Fury, the squad of Bound United as well. And let's have that conversation exactly again, as we're going to be jumping straight back out of the plane and into the map now.
Deja vu, my friend, deja vu. Although it has definitely changed when it comes to the playing path. I would argue, to an extent, just as good. It is from that northwest over to the southeast, so it is a little bit more south heavy. But once again, yeah, to kind of talk about those drop spots, Fury, are they going to head down towards Ferry Pier again, or are they going to look to head towards our normal drop spot, which is Yasnaya region? So far, they have not dropped out of the plane path, I believe. So they might be going for... It's ironic because we talked about that kind. I even mentioned that third drop spot, and they're going to military base. So that's something that is just really cool to see. So Yasnaya, Ferry Pier, military base, Fury will drop anywhere.
It doesn't matter. They'll still try and get the job done, to say the least, as we are going to see a little bit of a hot drop over here towards Pachinki. 2 teams evenly contested. I think this is going to be the first few frags on the board, as Teddy's going to fall to June, but Jervis is there to find a frag as well. So it is going to be 1-for-1 trade thus far early on over towards Pachinki. And we mentioned this already, Imperium, the likes of a hot drop and trying to find those first few frags. Our team's going to do it, our team is not, but... well, for the side of SGD, it looks like they want to try and find a frag as quickly as possible and then loot up.
Yeah, the Chinese Taipei side have been able to even things out, like you mentioned, with that confirmed kill onto one of the players of Team Extraordinaire. Their logo may look very, very similar to TSM, but no doubt about it, they'll be looking to play much different to TSM. Have a little bit more success in this Pachinki fight across the board. Overall, I think Shuje do have a better positioning, despite them being a little bit blanketed by Team Extraordinaire. Their players are a little bit more together, so it feels like if one of them gets knocked, they have a stronger chance of counter knocking them straight away, whereas the Expendables, to me, they look a little bit more expendable individually. However, I do love this roof play from June. He hears the footsteps of a player down below. He's trying to look an angle down with the FPP perspective. He has to make sure that he doesn't get tunnel vision.
Yeah, he's going to actually find one. You mentioned you loved the angle and the height advantage that June was holding. It's going to be Shen who falls, and June immediately snaps over towards the other player from SGD and trying to pick up these frags. And already the side of the Expendables looking in a lot better spot than they was initially, as it was them who actually had the player fall initially, as a bit of action still happening over towards Pachinki. But this is the map. Talk me through this map here now, Imperium, as to sort of where the players are set up and what sort of routes that you'd be looking to see them take.
Well, yeah, the phase 1 is a tiny bit to the west, but for the most part, it really has a nice central area for the team to kind of lay down their positioning. I'm looking at Pachinki. Hill is a pretty good spot, the south of Pachinki Hill, because that has a good view of the overside and towards the centered area of the map, and it's somewhat close to where quite a good few of these teams will be looking to rotate around, I feel. But for the most part, there's a lot of open areas. You can even hold on to that eastern edge just outside of Potato Hill if you want to try and gatekeep a couple of teams. The thing is, because that phase 1 circle, John, complements the plane path a lot, there's outside of knowing the information about the teams around you, there is that level of, well, there could be anybody rotating anywhere. There's less likely to be clusters of teams coming from one direction, as indeed the Expendables do annihilate, eliminate, take down the side of Shujadu.
Yeah, unfortunately for Shujadu, they did start things off with the first kill in the lobby, but doesn't matter as well. Team Expendables are good for 4. June in particular, we saw him playing that sneaky-like role on top of the roof, finding 2 kills of his own. And, well, we are going to see one team, unfortunately, drop out and drop us down to just 15 remaining teams. And slightly early on, what does that mean? Well, that gives Pachinki pretty much completely free to the side of the team of Expendables, and they're going to loot themselves up and get themselves looking in a little bit more of a better situation going into those later stages of the game than we mentioned. But already, I think it's only them that has one player that's dropped, actually. Everyone else is pretty good for 4.
It's just funny because, you know, we talked about how the first couple of games traditionally are quite passive, and we had a team fight right off the rip in this game 1 of the AOC Masters Regional Finals. But I consider that a blessed moment, right? A little bit of, you know, shot to the veins to begin with. And yeah, okay, Pachinki may be the Expendables to call their own, but their rotation path into this phase 1, despite them being generally close to the center, has been slowed down. And unbeknownst to them, and even unbeknownst to Kingslayer are looting up towards that Pachinki field region, so they could be able to catch out the Expendables for the time being.
Yeah, the team made in Thailand going to try and take some shots over towards NRX, and unfortunately a trade for traders. Well, that's a car coming at you at 100 on R now, my friend. That's going to hurt in the morning, but Nansmi's going to find one as well, as a few shots being laid down from Thanawat, as I think it's Dawn who he's trying to tag up as the revive tries to come through, but that's not going to happen. And, well, for the side of Made in Thailand, they do lose Nansmi early on, but for the side of NRX, I think they are going to get out of this slightly better off than the team of Made in Thailand are.
It's a 1-1 trade, so it's not the worst thing in the world. A good crash from NRX. Again, considering we talked about this game being somewhat passive, it's nice to see that team-wide aggression from NRX. Yes, they went in a tiny bit blind, not knowing, 1, how many teams were in that area, and 2, how many teams from the side of Myth were around them, so that punishment came through with the counter kill. But again, I respect NRX's aggression in the early parts of this game.
It's safe to say they had the broadcast open and thought, hey, you know what, John, you know what, Imperial, we're going to make it look like absolute donuts this evening, as we're just going to go around and try and frag it out all over the map. And, well, like you mentioned, the 1-for-1 trade, not the worst of situations for either of these teams, but, well, for the side of NRX, they are going to have DK now, who are trying to take a few shots, but on the other side of the map, it's going to be Namsi who falls as that team that was originally over towards Pachinki seemed to be engaged slightly by someone else. But for the squad of DK, well, they're sandwiched between 2 right now. Actually, make it 3 teams, as you've got Made in Thailand still hanging out as well. And, well,
And you've got Kingslayers in Pachinki. Fields, don't forget about them. So DK Esports, yes, it's a good area of the map to hold down. It is. That kind of southeast Pachinki hill is a really good place because you've got great dips that you're able to move around. You can see that DK are making use of that spread. However, with 3 teams surrounding them, like you correctly pointed out, if they're too heavily spread and one gets knocked, it makes it a lot harder for them to get that revive. So far, they're safe, but as we get into phase 2, I would just like to see them be just a little bit more aware, sticking together, and ready to react to the next circle shift.
Yeah, I think one thing we speak about a lot in terms of PUBG is team shooting and trying to find frags together. Is we say that NRX do just that. As one of the players from Fury, one of the favourites coming into this tournament, you could say, well, they're going to fall as now for the side of the Oceania regions. It's going to be one less player for them to deal with. And, well, NRX, they're going to lose one as well, as it's going to be Ronan who finds the kill onto Erenic, as Kobe does come through, not going to tag anyone up, but it doesn't need to, as Nicel finds one, but a trade for trade, as Flood's there as well, and these players, we're meant to be seeing passive play here, Imperium, and all of a sudden they just want to take fights left, right, and centre. Well, for the squad of Fury, they're going to come out slightly on top against NRX in this team fight, but at a very costly margin, as they're going to lose one player. Luckily, though, Insight's there to pick up his teammate Ronan and put 3 players back on the board, but what is happening right now? These players just seem to not realise that they've got to try and actually win this game.
Can I just change my team pick to NRX? Because, yeah, I know they lost the team fight and they got squad right, but by God, like, two times we've seen them in play so far in this game. In the first 9.5 minutes, they were just like, yep, we're finding the kills, we're going for it, job done. Yes, they met their maker in the form of Team Fury, and hey, kind of no better team than to shut them down in the PUBG Mobile Global Championship qualified team of Team Fury. But like you said, they had a player knocked down. Massive respect to NRX. Phase 2 has, or is about to pop up on board. It seems to have gone towards that kind of western side with that edge of Pachinki, or that Pachinki area of the map, very much on the eastern edge of the circle.
You have to wait and see how those rotation paths start to take effect as we head into the different phases of the game, but phase 2 at the moment still pretty early on, as you do see a few teams here. This is my prediction, as Burnham United, they're going to try and get themselves into a little bit of a better situation. They have got 2 teams just slightly to the west of them, I do believe, as nothing too much to worry about just yet. No, I don't think any of them have been really tagged up. Well, it was God Ace who did get tagged slightly, but it doesn't matter. He's just going to go ahead and try and challenge the side of DXG.
Yeah, like, Baunam going in the house as a full squad is quite risky, because one, there's not too many houses around them where they're able to hide those vehicles, right? So outside of the bikes that they've been able to bring into the house, wheels are exposed, being shut down, etc. Plus, if a team crashes, it can often be quite hard to defend the crash with only one house in play. 2 or 3 grenades, 2 or 3 mollies, and that could see 2 or 3 of their players being knocked down. They do know quite, how to play, of course. They're a global championship qualifying team, but I'm just a little bit worried about that position in this phase 2.
Yeah, not the best of situations for them to be located, and I think you mentioned it perfectly in terms of the not enough buildings to hide the likes of the vehicles around, but in particular not to hide themselves around. They kind of can get flushed out quite easily from that lone building. And speaking of flushing out, it's going to be Ronan who finds one on to Alec, because now we're seeing a squad of Team Extraordinaire. And actually, we mentioned they could be a team that's a little bit of a dark horse in this one. Had a few decently consistent performances across the regional stages, as they're going to come into this to try and do one better and finally break that top 3 bracket or top 2 bracket, if not go one better and pick up the championship spot here in the AOC Masters Tournament of 2021. And one thing to mention quickly, guys, you are, of course, watching the English broadcast for this event. We've got lots of other broadcasts going on throughout it that you are watching this via the Facebook AOC Monitor page, and don't forget to keep up to date with all the updates and tournament results. Follow up via the Facebook fan pages of AOC Monitor and Mineski TV _TH as well.
Those spots that we pull out on board, we had plans to pull out those spots earlier in the game when we predicted there wasn't going to be much action, but in these first 30 minutes they've gone by so quickly because the action has been pretty quick, it's been pretty fast, and it's been pretty consistent. Just like, of course, AOC's Monitor's performance, where they not only provide a super exciting event, but also brings you more special offers within the different countries. So for more information, don't forget to visit the AOC Monitor page via Facebook.
So we are going to see Zycho has been not so decided. Team Extraordinaire going to at least put 1 kill in the kill column thus far, as we do start to come towards the middle stage of that game. You mentioned already, nearly a quarter of an hour into this game, as what should have been a quite slow start paced game. We had so much planned to talk about, and I feel like our plans have just been ruined by these squads that just wanted to take non-stop aggressive fights thus far. But we're going to start to sit in towards that middle stage of the game, which I like to usually call the rotation phase, where the phases are starting to get a little bit smaller and you want to try and set yourself up in the best position and positioning for them final zones. And I mean, if you're looking at these squads right now, you would like to think that they're not going to try and get too aggressive towards those later stages of the game, but again, we're already in phase 3 still, and a lot of engagements have happened.
Yeah, and with this shift, the chopsticks area of the map becomes the most integral part of the map. Team Fury, they're heading there, but the teams who've gotten there before them, the knock that came through into Team Fury wasn't actually confirmed up, so they're back up as a full squad. Myth, making their way in. They being the team to get into the top 6 area ahead of Team Fury. Made in Thailand, they're an absolutely fantastically experienced team and organization within PUBG. But right now, we're looking at Division X. They have a beautiful compound area outside of top 6. It's a 2-2 split, which I think is relatively risky for this stage of the game, because a full squad could crash either of the two sets of players, and there'll be unlikely anything that they can do. And just as I say that, John, a team are crashing on two of their players.
Yeah, it's almost like we know what we're talking about as casters Imperium and study and play the game. As I completely agree with what you were saying. It's a little bit of a risky 2v2 split there, as well, the side of Bliss, they want to try and take over at least half of this compound area that was previously occupied by DXG. And you mentioned over towards Chopstick, such a pivotal and iconic spot within the map, Arango, and in particular for a phase and zone like this, it's going to be very, very heavily contested. And look, we've got DXG. I just mentioned the side of Team Bliss, they're going to be joining in on the fun, as well as this team of Made in Thailand. So, 3 very, very capable and good rosters here, all around the same sort of region. And well, now it looks like DK, they want to get on the act as well, as Mustaden's going to try and find a few frags with the Mini 14, and unfortunately doesn't find any. But we're going to start to see, I think, a lot of players drop out of this lobby relatively soon, as this next rotation on what would be phase 4 is going to obviously push these players ever so closer together, if not further apart. And those players that are slightly caught towards the edge, they might just be stuck out to dry.
I do like DK's position, though, on the edge of the circle, because it gives them a lot of exit potential. They do need to be aware that they're going to be going in blind with that information, but the next phase has popped up, it has gone northeast, and they can use that low ground outside of the church area to avoid a team around them. However, they are going to be going into the path lines of the likes of PMA and From the Future, so they do need to be aware of that as they do head out of the Pachinki church area. Right now, Colony do need to try and colonize around to a different area of the map, and they can breach in and towards that northwest. But here's the thing, right? With that circle shift, there's very little cover. You're relying on vehicles, and if you commit too much to those vehicles and to the smokes in this circle, you could be left out to dry in the next phase.
Yeah, and I think in particular as well, is there are a few teams that are already set up quite comfortably within phase 4, so they're just going to try and lay down that hellfire and shots towards those vehicles and try and disable them and tag the vehicles up. And as I say, that is going to be one of the players from PMA, Peach, trying to take some shots. And I think, well, that's one vehicle down, as I mentioned, that from one of the teams, I think it was FTF, whose vehicle's now been dropped. As well, on the other side of things, it looks like Fury. Well, they're starting to pick up the fragging, as the squad of EA Arena are going to drop 2 players. It's going to be Satnix and KAM who fall, as I think it was Ronan who did find 2, but Flood has fallen. And here we go, Ronan with 2 nades to finish off those knocks. Can he find the third?
Lovely Lyrics.
As that's some great shots from Lyrics. And all of a sudden, the squad of Team Fury, well, guess what? We backed them as favourites, and all of a sudden, they dropped out of the game as well. Zizzy's there to help his teammate Lyric to find the frags. And here we go. We mentioned towards this full 4/5 phase, we're going to start to see the kill feed on the lobby light up, and it's done just that.
Oh, and it's not over yet. My pick, Arena, come out on top, but they're going to have to deal with the likes of Team Extraordinaire. Trick comes on through, plays towards the side of the hill, has to be careful of what's going on around him, and Arena stabs one of them in the back, but now it's Sissy left on his own, looking for the 1v1 in towards the shots. He knows exactly where he is, and Molly in through the side of the tree on towards the smoke. That should connect absolutely beautifully. It does, but only puts him down to half health. He knows that he can't really go for the revive on the Lyrics. He knows his back is against the wall of the blue. Coming down the hill, he's being third party, left, right, and centre. He gets his shots off the knock-on, but he's going to get taken out by the last member of Team Extraordinaire.
Yeah, luckily for Team Extraordinaire, it was Papichulo who was there to find the frag and reign supreme indeed, as we're down to 29 remaining players here, 9 teams in total. And the side of Division X, well, they're looking great right now. 4 players still standing strong. Going to try and hold some of these players out of this phase. And blue, it is going to be Lonke, who's going to try and find some tags onto that solo remaining player from Team Extraordinaire, just rotating down towards the bottom of the hill. Was Well, I think I just saw briefly towards the back that the team of BN United, they're still good for at least 3 players in this game as well. Team Bliss, all 4 players still standing strong from them. And here you go. This is going to be sort of the rotation paths here. And anything over towards this eastern side of the zone coming up towards this long and windy road, they're going to be stuck in a little bit of trouble. And a team that might be in a little bit of trouble is Division X, because I think if that phase does start to continue to center towards the northeast side of the map, they're going to have to continue that rotation. And there's not a lot of cover around these big open plains right now.
They are honestly better off waiting. They know that Team Bliss are to that northwest of their location. Yeah, the road's in the middle, and technically you don't want to leave it too late to move across the road, but because it's absolutely barren across that way, again, they're better off leaving it to the last second. It's a little bit easier for the side of Team Bliss because they don't have to crevice across the road. They can play a little bit more towards the western edge of the circle, but they do need to eliminate as many players as they can. Still full squad up, still a number of vehicles that they can play around. The last player, Bad Boys, just trying to lay down low, lay down from the sights. It's from the future, are looking in towards their future as they face off against the might of KSR.
Yeah, we do see those Zest from BN's going to fall as it was Papachuno, the solo player from Team Extraordinaire. And talking about an extraordinary shot, it's going to be YQ, who absolutely turns and burns and snaps on the player coming out of the vehicle to find the frag, as well as him from the side of FTF. His teammates seem to be fragging as well, as I think it was Broken Hearts who find a few kills. It's going to be Jason who falls to the blue, but the squad of Kingslayer, well, they've fallen apart. They're meant to be the Slayers, but it looks like they could be the Slain, or are they? As it's going to be YQ drops, and what was, I think that was like a 2 or a 3 for 3 trade there potentially between these two teams, as both teams left in absolute disarray with 1 player left alive. It's going to be Broken Hearts for his squad to clear up the frag and put the 3rd or 5th kill, should I say, for his team in total, the 3rd of his. Well, this is starting to heat up here now. Imperium as the squad for BN, they look like this could be the stage of the game where they start to put their foot and grab it by the scuff of their neck as they're looking to try and pick up some frags.
Yeah, Baunam tried to play on the kind of fight that was happening between Kingslayers and the YQQ squad, but they didn't take into account across the road the positive mental attitude side to come in and punish them. It's not out of the woods just yet, but they lose another player. Simon T is the only one left standing as the blue zone starts to encroach. He's staying on the road, chucks up a beautiful nade in towards that smoke, doesn't quite connect. Another one being chucked out. Has to reload his gun. That's the last 40 bullets inside the barrel, but that barrel can definitely count for a good few shots on board as he once again has to lay down low.
Yeah, he's in a bit of a tough spot here. I think he has still got, luckily, though, 2 smokes to work with and a molly as well, if I was correct. But those nades, unfortunately, just creeping past the players of PMA. But, well, for PMA, they now got the colony to deal with as it's going to be Pete and Botany tagged up. I think Botany's already been knocked, so it's all up to Pete and Icon, left alive for their squad to try and get themselves edged towards this zone. But the squad of Colony, what they're doing right now so well, Imperium, is they're holding the squad of PMA really out of the zone. They've got the power spot, they've got the height advantage up towards the top of this hill, and as I say that, though, it's going to be that final knock on to Botany, and the elimination does eventually go through. These two teams, they're edging so closer, but I don't think Pete has realised he's still got that lone warrior Simon for the side of BN United left to deal with, and deal with him indeed, as we are into the top 4 finally here. It's going to be Colony, DX, PMA, and that team of Team Bliss left alive. But for PMA, it's all up to the remaining player as Pete finally drops, and it looks like they're going to see themselves eliminated, and we've got our top 3.
The colony has been burnt down in the hands of one of their players being eliminated, but like bees buzzing around the hive looking for some nectar. Colony want to stay alive, and they are gatekeeping the teams around them. You have 1 player left up as Bliss, the Australian representatives in this regional finals. They were invited, but they definitely want to make sure that invite was justified, as they may only have 3 kills, but more importantly, John, they're up as a full squad.
Yeah, they're up as a full squad, and I think luckily, though, for the side of DXG, they've got the same numbers to fight with, the player disadvantage for the side of Team Colony. And you mentioned the fact they've only got 3 kills, but it doesn't really matter here though, Imperium, because we mentioned the chicken dinner rule is of course in effect. So I mentioned you can really rely on just getting 2 or 3 kills and those being the final kills left in the lobby, and all of a sudden you're pulling yourself towards the top of the leaderboards. And well, for the side of Bliss, they want to try and at least pick up a few more kills and gain those kill points if possible. And I mean, you got to look at the likes of DXG here, who might be in a fantastic spot. What this is going to come down to now, Imperium, is the way in which the phase shifts once we hit phase 7, I think. If it starts to shift towards the south, you've got DXG looking fantastic, maybe Colony also. If it shifts towards the east, Colony looking fantastic. It shifts towards the northwest, and you've got the side of Team Bliss looking fantastic. This is really pivotal that the zone pulls towards one of these teams.
Yeah, but it also is important for Division X Gaming that if they're going to hold onto this kind of split this late into the game, that they absolutely shut down Colony so quickly, that they suppress their players so heavily where they can't really fire a bullet in their direction, that they can only chuck out the odd nade here or there. The circle shifts on up, it centralizes. I think it's gone slightly towards the members of Team Bliss, but we do see a player from the Colony just on the cusp of this circle.
Yes, so advantage Team Bliss, some would say, is they're set up relatively well, but all players heavily grouped together, so not the best of situations for them as they're going to try and hold these players of Colony and DXG. But if you look at the side of DXG, they've got Nil T, who's over towards the the southwestern side of this zone. He might be able to potentially find some tags onto the player of Team Bliss from their backs, as well, the Colony, they've got to try and swarm their way down the hill if they can, but Momonji is going to be caught with a few bullets to the face, as he's going to have to be forced to back up and re-engage at slightly a later date. But what I like from the side of Team Bliss right here, though, Imperium, is they're doing everything they can to try and tag players up and do just that, as Textile finds the first frag for the engagement, as it's going to be Momonji who drops. Is going to be revived though, however, so nothing too much to worry about for the side of Colony. But for the side of Team Bliss, you've got to be looking at the team of Colony now. I think this team here, with the player disadvantage, could be the ones that we take for the pickings.
I love the fact that Division X recognized that they were kind of further away from the circle. They had to switch up their position, and indeed they have done so. But the threat of Team Bliss on the edge of the circle is very much looming among them. Colony, they are definitely the most targeted team across the final 3 players up. It's 4v4v3, and this is the calm before the final storm. The thunder rolls and the lightning is about to strike between these last 3 teams. Nice shots being laid out from Division X, looking to try and once again continue to suppress Colony. The cars are flying along, and that's an initial knock once again onto a member of Colony.
Yeah, and that's going to be the kill as well, as Sixrin finishes off Momonji. As well, things have got bad from worse to the side of Colony, as what was 4 became 3, now is 2. As the squad of DXG, though, I think one player's been knocked as well. I think it's...
Yeah.
It's Aiken, if I'm correct. Yeah. I think he's been caught, so things have got from even better to great for the side of Team Bliss, as well, it's going to be Calbs who all of a sudden, he's got aggressive, does find one on to Monty. So, huge frag on him, and Alex actually found Rain with the nade, and all of a sudden, the side of Team Colony, well, they've done a great job. The tides have turned. Team Bliss have now down to 3 members, one of which is currently being revived, and, well, all of a sudden, Team Bliss, they were looking fantastically strong and in a great spot. But guess what? Colony said, don't count us out just yet, John and Imperium, because we're still here and here to stay indeed. And now the side of DXG, they very much got the numbers advantage. Great shots from Alec as he's trying to find some tags over towards the team of Team Bliss. And, well, they're all just stuck behind one car that's very much on fire, as... I mean, for the side of DXG, you got to say that. You could potentially win this. They played this perfectly, I would say, so far, Imperium. They're not getting too hyper-aggressive. They're not overly engaging too much. They're just trying to stay alive. They're trying to play for picks if they need to. And every time that phase moves and the zone slightly edges forward, they do just that as well.
But I think also Colony have benefited from Division X Gaming just slowing down a little bit, right? So there's less of that third-party nature. There's less of a focus, which has allowed Colony to just play a little bit freer. No doubt about it. Fantastic turnaround, and we kind of cast our curse Team Bliss towards the end, but by no means is a one and done. A trade comes through. Textile is knocked as Colony tries to keep one alive, but it's not going to be the case. They are eliminated.
Yes, it's gonna be DXG to clean the sweep, but guess what? It's 2 players from the side of Team Bliss who have been knocked as well, and all of a sudden, from what looked like a very comfortable situation, it's all up to 6 run, I believe, for the squad of Team Bliss. I think he's got the raison to rain, but it doesn't matter as, well, it's raining bullets for the side of Team Bliss as the squad of Division X are gonna pick up match number 1 here on Erangel and put themselves that chicken dinner winner rule on the board and looking even better for themselves as, I mean, what a fantastic performance out of them. And that just goes to show, we mentioned, are we going to see some passive style of play? Okay.
Yeah.
These players decided to play the passive style of play completely back and forth. They decided to go absolutely crazy at the start, and then when DXG needed to, they took their foot off the gas slightly. They said, okay, these 2 teams are engaging at each other at the moment, which was the side of Colony and the side of Team Bliss. They let them fight it out, trades back and forth. They were just letting all the opponents waste their resources and their utility.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, DXG were in a great spot. They find the frags and clean up onto Colony, and then from there, Team Bliss are easy pickings.
Well, see, and that's a product of the chicken dinner rule, John, right? Division X, it's not that they were passive. They were just calculated in that late game. They thought, well, why should we put ourselves under pressure by out-positioning ourselves? We already suffered 1 knock earlier on at the hands of Team Bliss. We've learned from that. Okay, it's like if you burn your finger on the stove, you're not going to burn it again, right? You're going to learn from that mistake, and that's what Division X did. So they played a little bit more calculated. They stood back. They allowed Colony and Bliss to pick each other off, and then when it came down to it, they came in and swept in. And again, that's a product of the chicken dinner rule.
Yeah, I'd love to know who it was that was running the IGL for the side of DXG there. I can't remember the player's name. I want to say I want to say it might have been... I can't remember the player's name for a second. It's completely evaded me, as I'll have to try and look at my notes and find it out. But it's a fantastic call nevertheless, as we see some highlights come through here. And this was a key engagement we saw between E-Arena and the side of Fury. And what looked like Fury were going to be somewhat stomping the lobby as they found the 2 nades on the fragate. Went from bad to worse from them as it was all up left to Simon, I believe. And again, this was a 3-for-3 trade between From the Future and Kingslayer. And well, this was our final 4 or 5 players that were that were left alive as that zone started to come in. PMA unfortunately didn't have what it took to try and edge themselves into that top 4 or top 3 as they were the first to fall out of the top 5, which left us with a squad of Bliss, Colony, DXG, and I think 1 other team as well. And no, it was PMA. Sorry, PMA was the 4th remaining team, but they instantly dropped. And then, well, from here it looked like Team Bliss were relatively comfortable because they had the zone working for them. They had the phases that were slowly starting to creep towards them and edge the players slightly further into their line of sights. But I think the squad of Division X played it fantastically. Colony as well. Got to give them huge props to them.
Yeah.
They did a lot of damage in terms of tagging up the players for Blitz.
Yeah, like Colony had so much more to deal with on that eastern side, right? When you looked at kind of phase 5, phase 6, whether it's the Bao Nam, whether it was I forget who else was on that eastern side, and I'm really impressed that they dealt with it all so kind of well in a composed manner, and you can see that the communication and the calmness, the mentality was definitely there for Colony. They were nearly not going to win the game, right? There was that high chance that they weren't, but still a deserved amount of kills for them in that second place with 7. But like I said, that chicken dinner rule, Division X Gaming, they will climb on top. They did have the most amount of kills in that game, so it does speak for itself. But it's all about that win, baby. And Division X, they'll take it.
Yeah, well, I think Division X have set themselves up fantastically well for the rest of today's action, and it must be a real confident boost. I mean, I know myself, I've played in various esports titles as a player, and I'm sure you have throughout your days as well, Imperium. To start things off with a win, it does the world of good for your confidence. In particular, such a smartly calculated and tactical performance like we saw from Division X there. You highlighted it beautifully in terms of, you know, highlighting that chicken dinner rule set of just letting the other players fight it out, and then try and, you know, sort of work your game plan and strategy around that. Albeit, okay, fair enough, they did end up with the highest amount of kills in the lobby anyway, so nothing too much to worry in terms of the kill department for the side of Division X. But for the side of Colony, just behind them, I don't want to say they'd be disappointed. They'll probably be very happy with the way in which they performed, because they were looking in some bad spots at times. I think at one point they got stuck at the bottom of the massive hill that was towards the top of the phase as well, and they managed to climb their way up it and then hold the side of PMA out to pick up some frags. But I mean, for the side of DXG going into this second game now, are we going to see, you know, the fact that they know, okay, listen, we won the game, cool, that's fair enough, but at the same time we fragged as well. So the competition's there. These players are confident players. They're good individuals. Are we going to see them try to be a little bit more confident in some engagements now? Or, me personally, I would still like to see the way they played that end game throughout the rest of the next few matches. Just be smart, calm, cool, collected, be tactical, and try and let the other people in the way they play, let them make the mistakes, and then calculate your decisions based on that.
And that's the thing, right? The way they played the end of that first game is exactly 9 times out of 10 how you should look to play a Miramar game, right? That calculated decision, that spread across the board, it was just well executed. And considering at one point you see the difference in kind of play styles, right? When you look at both Division X and Team Bliss. Division X were in one position, Team Bliss crashed in. Right? And they were both very similar in terms of positioning on that south side of the map. Team Bliss opted to try and go for that kind of northwest position, which I don't discredit them for, but it meant that they were kind of forced to play a little bit more isolated, a little bit more together, which, yes, gave them numbers, but we saw them not being able to take advantage of that, because not only did they have an extra team or two around them, but they just couldn't move around as freely to get those knocks, to get those kills. So kind of similar in terms of play styles, but in the end, Division X just played it out just that little bit sweeter.
Played it out sweeter indeed. And speaking of sweets, why don't you guys go and grab yourself a little bit of a refreshment, as we are going to take a short break for myself and Imperium. We'll be back to break down match number 1 and head into match number 2 on Miramar. We'll see you guys in a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back here to the AOC Masters Tournament 2021 Regional Finals. I'm John P, joined by the very beautiful man himself, Imperium. Listen, my friend, I wish I could grow a beard like yours, all right? I've got you off of my monitor because I'm so jealous just looking at it, all right? That's what it is right now. But
it's fine, man. It's fine. You're young. I could only start growing a beard from the age of 25 anyway. I'm an old man at this stage. You'll get there. You'll have your time, man. You'll have your time.
It's confirmed. I've got 2 more years until I get the Imperium seal of approval. To start growing a beard at least, anyway. But let's not talk about prickly face hair. Let's talk about prickly games and sort of a real strange and intriguing match number 1 we saw. It was almost like the players watched the broadcast and said, "Hey, listen, you know what? Anything you guys predict, we're going to do the opposite of us." We said with the chicken dinner rule set in play, it might be a little bit more of a slower paced affair, but these teams, Imperium Whelps, they went from it straight from the get-go.
Like, we had the Pachinki battle right off the bat, right? Between 2 teams. The Expendables coming out on top of that one. And it just went on from there. We saw the kind of southeast of Pachinki Hill area come under fire from a number of teams, and Myth coming into play. The absolute aggression from DX, just balls to the wall movement from them, which I absolutely appreciated. Nearly picking up a kill on the Fury, picking up a kill onto Myth. Obviously, they bit off more than they could chew when they came up against the PGC qualified team of Team Fury from Australia. But yeah, it was consistently action-packed, and the circle ending out in the open didn't help in a lot of ways, but we did see the might of Division X, of course, coming out on top in that game 1.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about the ending in general and the final phases, for a second and for a long time, it looked like, one of the teammates, or should I say one of the teams from the Oceanic region of Team Bliss. I know there's a lot of talk about Team Fury going into this, but we can't discredit the side of Bliss, as they looked very, very good at one point. They looked fantastic in a great spot. The phase movement in terms of where it was centering and shifting towards seemed to continuously go towards Bliss every single time, but unfortunately for them, and it's a point that I made, that it looked like they just got stuck too close quarters together. There wasn't enough spread from the team, unfortunately, to try and shut down certain different angles. They ended up getting collapsed on by the team of Colony and Division X as well, taking some pop shots from a distance, and unfortunately for them, they did fall, and Division X picked up that win. But going into the second map here now relatively soon, Imperial Miramar, you mentioned it's a team that you love to sort of look at from an analyst's point of view and strategical point of view. What are we expecting to see different from the likes of a Miramar match to the likes of an Orango?
The rotations are definitely the biggest thing when it comes to, you've the 2 options. It's so stereotypical, but when it comes to Miramar, you have the 2 options. You can take the open road, which at times can be longer because you're relying on the roadside and you might have to take a further distance, but in a way it's a little bit quicker, but it also leaves your vehicles exposed upon that rotation. Or you can go via the harsh terrain. The harsh terrain at times can take longer because you're trying to go through the bumps, trying not to crash your vehicle, roll it, etc, etc. But it also allows your vehicle to an extent be kept a little bit safer from maybe a team rotating, or if you're rotating by a team. For me, what I noticed in that game 1 was that there's quite a few kind of 1v1s. Miramar does see a lot of advantage given to a team that can spread out quite nicely and control the area in the first couple of circles, but I also want teams to be a little bit more aware of not getting themselves into too many 1v1s, to maybe hold on to a couple more 2-2 splits, so that if they do get pushed upon by a solo player or in some way, shape, or form, that they're able to, again, counter knock and keep themselves up as a full squad.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you talk about, and I think we saw it a few times in match number 1, that 2-on-2 split or a 1-3 split. I think we saw it a few times over towards Chopsticks once that rotation of the phase started to head over to that way. And I can't remember what team it was. I want to say it might have been either PMA or DK that had the 2-on-2 split over towards the compound area at the top of Chopsticks, and all of a sudden they got flushed out by the side of Team Bliss. So I think Miramar is definitely a map that you don't want to try and take too many head-to-head engagements with early on. In particular, you want to try and keep the numbers count as much as possible, because that was one of the points we highlighted almost initially as soon as we started the broadcast, is strength in numbers towards the end of the phases, right? So you can have one person looking east, one person looking west, 2 people sorting out your north and you want to be able to pretty much have one person have eyes on a certain direction at all times. And I think that's why the squad of DKX had such a great end towards that game number 1 on Erangel. But let's forget about Erangel now, my friend Imperiumers. We're going to go over to the hottie sands of Miramar as we head into match 2 out of 24 we've got this whole week. So we are at the halfway stage of today's broadcast. Unfortunately, we have got 3 and 4 coming up for you guys relatively soon. And I mean, Miramar, what a map to see in competitive play. I'm so glad that we've seen it for a long period of time within competitive play now, and it's a map that I think really suit the likes of DXG, in particular of how well they played that final phase, sort of from a strategic point.
For sure. I also, on a side note, absolutely love Miramar because of the place names. It just sounds kind of that little bit more exotic. San Martin. I automatically use a terrible Spanish accent when I talk about locations like La Cabrera.
It's just like disclaimer. We apologize to any Spanish, Mexicans, South Americans that we may offend throughout this broadcast. We are here for entertainment purposes only.
But of course, that easterly playing path does make it a lot trickier for teams that want to land on the west hand side of the map. NRX do seem to be heading that direction. Fury couldn't ask for a better playing path as they drop in towards the western side of Los Leones. Of course, TB gonna have to be aware of the side of Expendables, who are dropping a little bit outside of the Al Azahar region for the time being. Picking up early vehicles again is super important, but with the Winchester from Team Extraordinaire, Trick, let's even try to find a trickety trick of a shot towards one of the players of DX.
Yeah, not the best of weaponry to try and have an up-close engagement with, but it doesn't matter! As Limitless, my friend, your skills are limited by the seams of it, as Trick had one up his sleeve, to say the least, and that was at the hands of the Winchester to find the first knock in the game. But fortunately, though, for the side of DK, my boy, well, he had one of his own, as it's going to be Trick who falls. The res will come through, and already from the sides of DK and the squad of, I think this is the Expendables, if I'm correct. Team Extraordinaire, I think it may be. They're going to take some engagement. This is, I'm not too sure what I'm watching. Am I watching PUBG or am I just watching a snipe off right now?
This is beautiful. This is actually beautiful, but now Papi Chulo's like, what? Okay, I'm done with the Winchesters. I'm done. I have an AKM. It may be with a 4X, which of course makes it quite hard to control recoil-wise, but it's certainly a hell of a lot better than a Winchester in the early parts of this game. What is not good, though, is that Phase 1 circle, John. Like, Miramar is the map that's least associated with water circles, water finishes. But that Phase 1, I don't think could be further south. That's at least 55% water. So much so that it's out the bounds of the map. So that south side of the map is automatically the hottest property. And we are going to see, in my eyes, a lot earlier rotations from these teams, because that Phase 1 is nearly like a Phase 2, if anything, Phase 3, with how little land is available.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of these teams will be looking to top up on their kills and chicken dinners this game, but trying to top up on their tans over by that water as well. on Miramar. You mentioned, I think it looks like it's around 50 or 60 odd percent here is literally just completely rinsed out of the map into the water. So that point you made of the rotations coming in a lot sooner rather than later is definitely going to be something we see. And already, I think what we've flicked onto about 5, 6, 7, maybe even 7 teams, and they've already got themselves in the vehicles trying to make their way over towards that phase 1. And you know, having a phase like that really throws the spanner in the works, right, Imperium, if you're a player, because most of the time you'll say, okay, we've got our drop spots, we know sort of the common phases and starts to the game, so the rotation pass we need to take, but boom, as soon as you drop in around 30 or 50 odd seconds later, that first phase hits and it's pretty much off the map. You got to be saying to yourself, well, that's thrown a complete spanner in the works.
But that's where the strongest IGLs will really come into play overall, right? Where they'll be able to direct and lead their team in the way of, hey, we need to get moving early, we need to get out of here. What does hurt is seeing the likes of DX and the Expendables continue this fight about around the Minas Generalis areas. I kind of get it, because DX are down to 2 players. They're less likely to win the game, so why not just try and pick up as many kills as possible just to kind of offset that lack of possibility of getting the win. But doing that inside the circle on phase 1, phase 2, I think would be a little bit more suitable for this duel. But they need to be careful. How-Ho and Papichulo, the last 2 players up for the Expendables, and towards this area of the map.
Yeah, but it's that good old saying of, if a team's going to ruin your game and try and find some frags on you, you ruin it equally as much just back to try and drop as many players from them as you can. And I mean, well, to be fair, PUBG, we have seen it time and time again on, in particular on the likes of Miramar. It is very much a winnable cause to see, a 2-player or a 3-player squad pick up a chicken dinner. So the squad of DK not out of it just yet, but one player that is Jervis. It's going to be Dawn who finds the full kill onto that lone player from SGD. And the squad of NRX, we saw them, start the first game very aggressively, almost just driving straight into a team. I think they quite literally did drive into a team at one point and run a few players over. It's actually, he's found one onto Papichulo as well. With the squad of DK, they've nearly completely squad wiped the team of Team Extraordinaire.
DX. Yeah, DX, they've been able to find a second last player up for their side. So Papichulo eliminated. They're going to be down to 1 from the Expendables. But NRX been able to pick up a kill onto one of the Xiao Jidui players is quite important for their ability to push into this circle. We are 6 minutes into the game, and KSR Kingslayer is being taken apart, the crown being ripped off their heads as PMA pick up the kill. And that's something that these teams can look to do as well, right? You don't necessarily need to instantly go for the rotate into circle, but if you know where a team drops behind you, behind the circle entry point, what you can do is you can just do a little bit of gatekeeping. Be aware of their pathfinds. We've seen it once, we're seeing it with Team Bliss. They've lost 3, and it's just 6 Ryan left on his own in this rotation. The Expendables, they find them all, baby.
Yeah, I like that a lot from Expendables. They kind of realised that they're still continuing to frag as well. Team Expendables, they're a team on an absolute mission as they're trying to go from better to even great as they find 2 frags onto the squad from Made in Thailand. It is going to be a 2-for-2 knock trade though, so it wouldn't surprise me to see both teams try and get them 2 players back up and into the engagements before starting to re-engage. As the squad that I mentioned, the team of Team Expendables though, their positioning was relatively good and strong. They kind of just camped out towards this long windy road as they know the rotations towards this bottom part of the phase is going to come in and just try and tag as many players off on the rotation as possible. But talking about tagging and finishing players off, it's going to be Jacob and Nansby to find those 2 players that was initially not. And
I'm very excited to watch this Myth team play, and I also have to give an extra bit of credit to Rick Saga, who has casted and commentated a lot of the APEC region across this year. He threw some information my way, and he's highlighted that Myth recently signed Rogue Nans, and together with Jacob, they're 2 young but incredibly talented fraggers. in this squad. So I'm really excited to see what Myth are able to do in this AOC Masters Tournament.
Yeah, I think, especially when you have some new additions in terms of signings, as the teams in particular, some young gun and young blood within the PUBG scene, it's always important to try and get that gel and mix together relatively well. And I think, you couldn't have asked for a better time to try and do it. If not, just throw them straight in at the deep end like they seem to have done here for the AOC Masters. And I don't think it'll phase them too much. They're two very talented players, like you said, as well. June's going to be tagged up. He elects to try and hop in towards the back. I love that a lot. It's a trick we see quite often within PUBG, but a trick we see quite often as well is the headshot with the SLR, and it's going to be in Mastodon to find June eventually. And well, the squad of Team Expendables, who look so good after finding those first frags, well, they're down to just one remaining player, I believe, as this is going to be a full team wipe from the side of Kingslayer come through as well, and they're the first team to drop out and drop us to 15 total teams. And already, if you just look on your left hand side here on the live standings, look at how many players have dropped out of this game already early on, Imperial.
Yeah, 47 players less than 10 minutes into the game. When try and kind of compare that to Erangel as a little bit of context, I believe we were 18 minutes in and we still had 52 players up or so. Just so Miramar as a map is reputationally meant to be even just a little bit more passive than Erangel, but in this game, and it's all a product of those circle shifts, to be fair, especially that first one that popped up. We're seeing a lot more action unfold, whether it's rotationally, whether it's just general clashing of the pathing lines. Teams have been coming together, but that phase 2 is a lot more effective, John, because it does eliminate a good 30% so of the water that's in play. Shifting to the west, there's automatically just that extra level of landmass available comparative to the water compared to phase 1.
Yeah, so it looks like the Speedos and goggles can go away just for now, as that zone, like you mentioned, the phase starts to slowly take its turn and shift away from that water. But we've seen crazy things happen in PUBG, to say the least, as we are already into phase number 2 and on board with a side of Fury, who will probably be a little bit disappointed after their game number 1 performance. I thought they fell relatively sooner than probably a lot of people would have expected, as it's going to be Insight who tries to find some tags with that Mini 14. I think he does find one player up towards the top of that hill, and well, they're going to not elect to challenge that fight. But well, here are game number 1 winners. It's going to be DXG. They are down 1 player though. It's going to be Long GK, who's dropped, as well. He's going to try and find some tags. Does, but gets tagged up himself. 7 HP, not a lot to work with. Got to try and duck and dive his way out of trouble.
Lovely.
But he's going to duck and dive his way into the Mini 14 of KMF1, and that's going to be the squad of PMA to put their 3rd frag on the board for this game. And well, DXG, they've got a lot to do now.
I don't get why he was being so aggressive in that position when he was on his own. Right, he had no real support. Even the rest of his team, the circle shifting, they didn't really have any control of the east. So honestly, that was a mistake from Logfee for sure. And PMA took massive advantage. They have 4 kills already, a full squad up. This team able to capitalize, and now they'll control a lot more of the eastern side of the map. Talking real quick about Fury, though, I think they were more disappointed at the lack of casters that predicted their team to win this tournament. They put a tweet out, tagged me, and was like, actually disappointed. Guess we've got a point to prove. And hey, that's part of the reason why I didn't pick a team like Fury, right? Because it was always going to be that little bit easier. And it's kind of like, that reverse psychology standpoint. I was like, look, yeah, I won't pick Fury. They'll be a little bit more annoyed. And then they'll be like, I'll show them. Shakes fist in the air. So, hey, that extra little bit of motivation might help them.
Yeah, they definitely need that bit of motivation in match number 2, as reverse psychology didn't pay off in the first game, as they only got 5 kills on the board, sitting at 9th. Right now, you definitely look to see them try and head into the top 3, but there's a lot of time to go in terms of PUBG gameplay throughout the week here at the AOC Masters Tournament of 2021. And well, for the side of Team Bliss, it is going to be their solo remaining player, Sixrin, left alive in this solo shack, as he does final 1, and Flood's going to finish off the kill.
Oh, wow.
And, well, it is going to be Teddy and Upchen left alive for the side of Sugardew and 4.
And Xiaoji, they're the team that hot dropped in Pachinki in game 1, so we haven't really seen specifically too much from them in these games, and being down to 2 players, it kind of makes it a good bit harder. They're currently outside of the circle, but so are the likes of Team Fury, shifting up towards the bridge. You still have that tiny bit of the Southern Island in play in the crevice of water, but PMA, like I said, controlling, taking advantage of this eastern side. Lovely shots by IMP with the SKS to get the knock on the Astro Boy.
Yeah, that's going to be the cleanup as well, as Astro Boy is not going to go Astral this time, as unfortunately for him, the shots were most definitely out of the world from the PMA player to find the tag out of the car, and they're going to have to deal with the player disadvantage, as maybe a 2-player disadvantage now, as Lyric's going to tag Andy up relatively low. And I love this from E-Arena here. They're playing so aggressively on the edge of this sort of cliff face towards the strip of water, as Andy's so low. A matter of probably one more bullet will do him and see him be knocked, as he's down to probably around the 30-odd HP region, as E-Arena, though, unfortunately aren't going to be able to finish that up. Or are they? It is going to be Zixi who finally finds Andy out of the car, and well, for the squad of BBA, they're down to 2 remaining players all of a sudden.
Yeah, and that's something that we saw them do in the first game. I didn't highlight it that much, but the rotations in the first 2 games have been, lackluster, being perfectly honest. Scout a little bit better, right? Stop closer to the edge of the circle. Try and get some information. Don't presume as you enter in on phase 3 that it's going to be free, clear, and under control, right? Especially with the circles that we've seen in Miramar. Never mind what was clearly a little bit better in game 1. But Colony, of course, colonizing around this compound that they're able to call their own, looking very healthy across these first 2 games. I love how they play as a team, impressed with them so far. You also have to be careful of FTF behind them and a couple of other teams around them.
Made in Thailand. Now they're going to be taking on the squad of Team Extraordinaire, I believe, as it's going to be
Expendables.
Expendables, sorry. Yes, there are 2 teams that have very certain names. I do apologize about that. It's going to be Extraordinaire with the clan tag EX and the Expendables with TE, but I'm just looking across on the left-hand side, the teams that have got 4 remaining players left. You've got PMA, you've got Colony, you've got NRX, as well as Belnam United, who, to be fair, Belnam, they've been very quiet thus far as we see phase 4.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where they know coming into the PGS that playing that late game style is going to be important. So staying quiet, allowing the other teams around them to do the hard work for them, get their hands dirty, and then they can come in and clean things up. E-Arena do have PMA behind them, so what kind of goes around comes around. PMA were able to circle camp a couple of teams earlier on, but now they have to find their position in because the next phase did shift massively up north. It's a good 2-2 split from PMA. I like that. Sticking together as a 2-2 is something that we already highlighted coming into this game, but again, just trying to find an entry point into the circle will be quite difficult.
Yeah, it's not going to be the easiest of tasks. One team with a task on their hand as well is the side of Made in Thailand, as they're slightly further out of the phase as to which they would like to be, but for PMA the rotation shouldn't be too much of an issue, as they have got a couple vehicles to work with as well. Sapnix, though, trying to tag one up. He's going to find a brilliant headshot onto Icon DKS as he tags one other player 24. As well. He's absolutely on fire at the moment, like you said. You've got to be feeling your shot if you're just going to be taking snapshots like that and finding heads.
Like, I know it's not in the meta of PUBG, and I get it, but man, nothing beats a glorious M24 bolt action headshot knock in PUBG esports. Made in Thailand, not quite in the circle, having to use a decent bit of utility as PMA encroaching on their space. They do have DX, I believe, DK it is, actually kind of gatekeeping them from the edge of the circle.
Yeah, it's going to be Botany to find the kill onto Rogue Nansmi, and all of a sudden Pete's going to find a few frags as well. Flood finishing it off once again. Botany's going to knock Nansmi as well. So you can see the kill feed starting to heat up ever so slightly here, Imperium, as we're starting to enter that stage where we mentioned that these players are going to start to struggle to try and edge their way into the zone. And well, let me tell you right now, one player that's not struggling is Rogue Nansmi. Is I think that's the 4-4-5th knock I've seen within quick succession from him, as there are actually two players relatively close to the solo player that is still from Team Blitz. It's going to be 6 Rin, but unfortunately, my friend, you're going back to the lobby as Neil T from game number 1, winners of DXG, reigning supreme as Botany knocked. Pete's going to be cleaned up, and the side of PMA, well, I think that's them pretty much good to go GG next. There's 2 players relatively low. They're going to die to the blue, no doubt, as well. This is what things are going to look like heading into phase number 5 here, Imperium, and that is a big shift into the center of zone, and the likes of Colony, FTF, and NRX, they're absolutely loving life right now.
Yeah, and it's also kind of circle where you really don't want to be in the center, right? Dot Road is dead in the middle. E-Arena, part of the reason why I did pick them outside of kind of being a bit of an underdog team is from my bit of VOD reviewing, being impressed with how they play these Miramar games. Look at them sending lyrics into the circle as an anchor point is so incredibly valuable. I believe that position as well is just blocked off from NRX, so they should be able to gatekeep the team that's just a little bit to the southwest of them, avoid DK, although the rest of the E-Arena team could, of course, push in on the DK. One thing we need to think about is these teams might not be super aware of how many players are left in terms of the teams that are around them.
Here we are going to see one of the players from DXG fall, so one remaining player left for our match number 1 winners, as all of a sudden it's going to be a few kills for the side of E-Arena, and it's a point you made, sending that one player lyrics into the zone to try and anchor. I think he found 1 kill as KM9 is going to be good to finish the kill from Tapatcher, as with the team right now of E-Arena, they're looking very strong in this game, Imperium. I've been very impressed in terms of the way they played this rotation. I think it's pivotal to what you said of sending lyrics into that zone to try and play that anchor and lock down a little bit of positioning for them. As well, those players now, they're going to try and go ahead over and join him, as he's just got to make sure he doesn't get singled out and spotted by this team of NRX. I think he is slightly further enough back and not going to be in the line of sight just yet. And well, E-Arena, they've pretty much got that man to thank for edging into the zone.
He was also trying to take a couple of shots towards Baonam as they push in towards that western side. Lovely shots onto Division X, the winners of the first game. Giga Khan is taken out. NRX, Colony, and from the future, probably the teams in the best position of the circle. And there's not really much you can do when you're the other teams, possibly going for a massive crash. But again, when these games are so reliant on getting first place, you're a little bit more afraid to go for that compound crash at this stage of the game.
Yeah, it's a very risky one indeed, but just noticing on the other side of things, Sapnix and KM99 for the squad of E-Arena. I think it was your pick if I'm correct, Imperium. They're fragging and fragging heavy right now, as they're going to find 2 more kills. But you mentioned the side of Colony, looks like they're in a very good spot. Well, they've got to deal with potential favourites coming into this Baonam United, as they're going to start to make their way up over towards the side of Colony. A few nades coming from either side, and the team of Baonam, they are a very strong talented team. We know that, of course, but are we going to see the positioning from Colony just take the edge over them in this engagement? Sometimes, having the height advantage, having the position advantage, although you might not necessarily back yourself as better aimers, just having that slight tactical advantage on the peaks might come into your favour.
And for Colony, honestly, they also need to recognise that it's unlikely that they can hold on to the whole compound area, that they might need to give up a small part of it, which is why they've opted for a 3-1 split. It is the best way to hold on to the majority of the compound. You have the one player in the off angle to try and get that little bit of information and stay somewhat protected while the rest of the players and the rest of the team hold on to the majority side. In this case, it is the warehouse. Xiao Zhedui still holding on as a duo. That's an arm in the hands of one of the players. Yes, I repeat, an arm.
As we are going to see a few frags take place on the other side of the map. It's going to be Fury and DXG who are currently engaged. Upchun trying to tag a few up. It's going to be Insight who falls, and we're instantly going to switch back out and try and find a few more frags. Can he spot the second player? That's Ronan. He can, but the engagement's starting to take place now between 3 players over towards where Colony, E-Arena, and the side of Bao Nam were engaging. And here we go then. It's a 2-for-2 trade thus far across the board as Lyrics and KM9, they're going to fall for the side of Colony. It's going to be Elect, Mamonji and Killer left alive, but it's all up to God Ace from the side of Baonam to try and go huge for his team. Sapnik's though going to put that res through, but Zest actually is going to find 2 with the nades. I thought there was only 1 remaining player from Baonam, but it's not. He's got a teammate lurking his way over towards the bottom of that warehouse, and well, it looks like we're good for somewhat of a 4-team engagement here as NRX, Colony, you name it, they're all trying to get involved and try and take this warehouse. As I say, that is going to be Upchun to find some tags, and he's helped out by Teddy as Insight drops. And for the side of Fury, it's all falling apart once again as 2 players, well, they're going to be sent back to the loading screen as there's only 2 players for one of the favourites coming into this of the team of Fury as Upchun and the squads from SGD, or I say the squad is do it really, of Teddy trying to put the eliminations and kills through to drop them out of the remaining 18 players left alive in the game. I'm not too sure if Upchun knows that there's 1 player just lurking towards that cornfield, but Zest got Ace on the other side of things. They're going to combine for a few kills, make it 3 from Zest as NRX were in a fantastic spot by the looks of it with all 4 remaining players, and they're going to fall, and all of a sudden Imperium players are dropping left, right and centre.
I don't get why NRX kind of opted to go across the road. I didn't think they needed to move out of that compound just yet. A lot of action had happened around them, and I thought they could have waited out a little bit more, but in the end they felt confident pushing in, but they met their match. Bao Nam have 3 players still up towards their side. The circle shifts to the east. Yes, Fury were getting punished, but it was never going to be an easy, victimless rotation from them in the previous circle. The fact that they made it in as a duo, in my eyes, is still incredibly successful. And the circle shifts towards them. That's actually harder because now their position is just a little bit more of a focus. You can see from the future and Shei Dui looking at them.
Yeah, as you say that, there's going to be Upchun who's tagged down to what, 15 HP. I think it was Flood who found that, but you mentioned and highlighted the team of From the Future. Well, they're from the future indeed as they're coming back to it as they find the frags onto Teddy. The nade from Flood to drop Upchun. It's going to be SGD who are out of this one. And we have 5 remaining teams here left, Imperium. It's the squad of E-Arena, Baonam United, Fury, the Colony, and From the Future. 1 person at the end of this game will take top spot. As once the remaining kills do go through, I think we will see a change in the live standings and the leaderboards. And well, for the side of Fury, it's going to be the duo of Flood and his teammate to try and make things work, as they've got the slight height advantage on these players trying to rotate their way over towards the phase. And there's still such a huge engagement over towards this warehouse here between Colony, E-Arena, and Baonam, and things could really swing either way here.
Yeah, you got 2 separate battles going on board, right? You got the 3 teams going up against each other, followed by the 2 by E-Arena meet their match. Our 2 picks go up against each other, and John, you win in this one.
Yeah, it looks like Baonam just gonna stay alive, but it is gonna be the duo of Zest, and I think, I can't remember who it was left alive for the other player of Baonam, but the Resi is gonna come through. It might be God Ace actually, but for the side of Colony, 3 is a good number for them, as them and From the Future have got just the player difference thus far. But into our final 4 we go, as we will see a different live standing leader at the end of this game. And From the Future, they want to try and make sure it's not going to be the squad of Team Fury, as the 3 players from the future are going to try and find some tags, and that's exactly what they do, as But it doesn't matter because Flood has other ideas. As Flood finds one, can he find the second? Of course he can!
So close!
But somehow, the squad of FTF hang on to see at least another team fight. As it is going to come at a price, though. One player has been knocked in. Oh, no, for a second I thought Broken Hearts was just inside the blue there for a second. He is going to be able to get res, so all 3 players back available for the side of FTF. And, well, for Fury, you've got to be saying that's 2 games now. We've not even been able to make top 3 and sort of find that end game. And for the team of Colony, that's 2 in a row where you've very much done that. They finished, what, second in the last. They want to try and go one better this time.
FTF, I think they made a tiny bit of a mistake by pushing so aggressively onto Fury. I can appreciate it, but they allowed so much of that southern side to be handled by Bao Nam that it does continue to take the control away from them. Of course, the advantage is that Colony are still alive, so it's a 3-way dance. The low ground held by Bao Nam could be the reason why they come out on top in this game too.
Yeah, only in time will tell, and we very much will have to see. A few players, though, relatively low. I think there was one player on FTF who was dropped down to around 60-odd HP, and they couldn't even get any more hills on board, or whether that's YQQ or Broken Hearts. We'll have to wait and see. But you mentioned Baonam in a fantastic spot upon the low ground here as the side from the future. They're going to try and make their way down this mountain with the smokes, and it's going to be Zest, and I'm trying to see who the remaining other player for Baonam United is. I can't quite lay my eyes on it. It's Simon T, who's still over towards the bottom of where that exit of the warehouse is. So, Simon's in a fantastic spot here. I love that. I love the split from the team of Baonam here. What they're trying to do is they're trying to play some sort of pincer with 2 players. As one player, Zest, already trying to work as that anchor roll over towards the center of the zone. And they're just going to try and let Simon frag out and catch people off guard here. And I think the team of Colony, they're not going to have any idea that he's here, or are they? I think they spot him, but it doesn't matter as Simon going to find the first. Can he find the second? He can't. It's going to be Mamanji who finds the frag. So all of a sudden, it's all up to Zest from Baonam United, but the nades come through and he's in a great spot. He's the only player here with natural cover, I believe, as this is going to look fantastic for Zest as well. He drops Elect, and that's going to be the 4 kill come through, and it's a 3 versus 1 from the future versus Zest. Can Zest pull it off? 27 HP, very much a dream left to play with. Not a lot to work with in terms of the hill department, none at all. I think the zone, the blue, going to start to make its way in and try and force him closer to the side of FTF. It's only a matter of time, as it looks like FTF, they're going to be the winner. Have a chicken dinner on me tonight from the future as they pick up match number 2 here at the AOC Masters Tournament 2021.
It came down to that final circle, the final blue zone, so to speak, closing in of Phase 9, and a deserved win from the future. I appreciate it, although didn't necessarily agree with their push on the Fury, but I knew what they were trying to do in that game, and you can see the smile on their faces, their relief at grabbing an early chicken dinner in the AOC Masters Regional Finals. Day 1, Game 2, they get the credit of the win. But for Baonam, as much as I like the 1-1 split at the end, when you only have 2 players left, that comes at a massive risk. And Zest wasn't quite able to cover him as heavily as he wanted to, because he had to be considerate of from the future, right? Yeah. So in my eyes, I think Simon and Zest should have stayed in that shack, do what Division X did in Game 1, and allow Colony and from the future to kind of pick each other apart, and then they could come out of the shack swinging and pick up their own third party. Easier said than done, I know, but I still disagree with that 1-1 split.
I think, it's one of those things where if they had the extra additional player, right, then they could have comfortably left Simon play there towards the bottom of that ridge where the bottom of the warehouse was. If they had the third player, it would definitely have been pivotal and could have seen, those trades go a slightly different way. But I think we knew it was in for a crazy game as soon as we saw this. A little bit of a quick scope match between the side of DK and Team Extraordinaire, and well, I think we knew from the get-go it was in for a very crazy game, and crazy indeed. As soon as we saw that Phase 1 pop towards the south of the map, we saw just frags go left, right, and center, and kills in the kill feed happen pretty much almost instantaneously. But we got to talk about. We had 47 players left after 12 minutes of gameplay here, Imperium. This was a very, very fast-paced start from these teams once again.
It was just, again, it all came down to that phase 1 circle, and you can study the teams as much as possible, but it's very hard to study a circle like that because it doesn't happen often. So there's an obvious chance that some teams are going to get caught out, and we saw other teams being able to capitalize by picking up those kills on the rotations in the first 2 circles. PMA did impress me on how they were able to move around this area of the map, but so did E-Arena, right? Their movement on that southwest side was absolutely fantastic. I don't think they should have pushed onto the western side of that compound to face up against kind of Boundham and Colony. But again, they knew that NXR were kind of in that compound in front. I would have preferred to see them crash NXR because it would have been a little bit more of an isolated fight. Whereas on the west, they were a little bit more vicarious to a third party.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, we mentioned here as the final 3 teams were left, you highlighted time and time again the push from FTF towards Fury was a very risky one that seemed to have very much played off as the trades come through. Simon couldn't do much work towards the bottom of Warehouse and left his teammate in a 3 versus 1. And in a 3 versus 1, especially in a Battle Royale game, in any game in general, it's only going to finish one way, and that is in favour of the side of From the Future. And, the side of Division X Gaming, after winning match number 1, they're still currently tied at the top of the leaderboards with 1 chicken dinner apiece. So I think for them, they will not be upset at all. But you got to look at the likes of E-Arena and Boundham United, 15, 13 frags. They are way, way ahead here in terms of the kill department. And if they can pick up themselves a chicken dinner, they're looking very, very good going into future days' worth of games.
And that's one thing that I suppose can have a little bit of an impact when it comes to the kill side, is that if you're able to pick up, 15, 20 kills, 25 kills in the first kind of day, 2 days to the point where that if you grab that chicken dinner, you will automatically jump up 4 to 5 places. On that day 3, on that day 4, you can shift your playstyle to play a little bit more passive, to play a little bit more heavily for the late game and put kind of your chips on that chicken dinner, grab it, and then instantly you're in the top 3. It's risky because you don't want to maybe leave it too late, but again, with it being over 6 days and 24 games, it allows you to at least explore that kind of strategy.
Yeah, completely agree. We are going to explore some more strategies of what teams might take into match 3 and 4 in a few minutes' time. Go grab yourself some refreshments because we're only just halfway through our games here in today's action. We've got another set of games on Erangel and Miramar coming up after this short break. You guys are not going to want to miss it. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back here to the AOC Masters Tournament 2021. The regional finals are finally around and we are halfway through our action here in day number 1. My name's John P. I'm joined by Imperium, and Imperium, we've seen a absolute crazy start to the day. We predicted, okay, there's the chicken dinner rulings set. We might see a bit more of a slow-paced game. These players might take it a little bit more passive and seriously. Well, they seem to have just done that with a textbook, ripped it up, thrown it out the window, hopped in cars, you name it. They've just drove around everywhere and trying to find frags. And let's talk a little bit about Miramar. Of course, we saw an absolute ridiculous phase number 1, which was pretty much 60-odd% water. And from there, that just set us up for a fantastic game.
Yeah, even taking the water aside, we saw the Winchester come out right off the bat in a close range knock. I think it was the Expendables, and I forget who else it was, but it was just a TK. DK, there you go. DK and Expendables. It was just an absolutely stunning start to the game, and yeah, that water circle on phase 1 had a massive impact on the flow of how these teams rotated throughout the early circles. We saw a lot of teams being caught off guard, but I don't think it took away from the end of the game. Realistically, those final 3 to 4 teams really pulling up strong. Very impressed with From the Future under risk taking, rewarded very much with the squad up on the Fury, because again, as much as I highlight that they maybe shouldn't have pushed it, if they had enough, they could have gotten third party from them, you know, if in terms of duo coming in on towards that south side. So it's easier said than done, but it was a great win, and let's see if they can do it in this game 3.
If buts and maybes are definitely the phrase that comes to mind when we discuss Battle Royales, but in particular PUBG esports, we're going to be heading back over to Wrangle, as we saw that in match number 1, in which DXG came out on top, as we actually saw a very, very aggressive hot drop towards Pachinki as well, if I'm correct. We saw, I think it was 2 or maybe even 3 teams drop over towards there. It'll be interesting to see whether or not we see some sort of replication come in. But one team I'm very impressed with in particular that I don't think we highlighted too much on is the team at the bottom of your screen right now of Colony. I think they played fantastically well thus far. 2 consistently high placements. Yes. Unfortunately, they've not been able to pick up a chicken dinner just yet, but they're a team that they seem to have got the tactics down to a T at the moment. The strats that they're running seem to be working, and they're constantly pushing inside that top 4. We just need to see if they can go one better and try and pick up that chicken dinner.
They've got the tactics. Let's see if they've got the TikToks to pull out on top of this game number 3 of the day. That playing path is absolutely glorious. Couldn't ask for realistically a better playing path, but it's also not taken away from both the Expendables and the side of Xiao Dui of both dropping in on towards this Pachinki area and having a fight to the death. This is PUBG Classics all the way. A lovely Thompson being picked up by Jun to kick things off, but he has not got any kind of helmet or armor. And here's the thing, he's not in a position to be really able to go for it. There you go, get to a level 1 vest. That should help him even just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a terrifying experience to try and take any engagement in PUBG, but let alone up close and personal with no armor, no helmet to work with. Luckily for him, has got both of those to work with. Now, the HP margin, though, not the greatest, but for June, I'm not too sure if he realizes that there are 2 players out the front of the door that he's in. But, well, they're going to know that he's there now as he does try and land some shots, doesn't find anyone. And here we go. This is what we saw exactly in match number 1 here in Imperium. These 2 teams of the Expendables and SGD, so aggressive off each other to start with. If he comes through, it's going to be Teddy who... Oh, what a nade that is, as June's going to get tagged up down to 20-odd HP. And luckily for him, he's got the medical resources to get things up and running once again. And, well, Teddy has been knocked, and this is what we saw last time. It was SGD in match number 1 tried to force the engagement, but all of a sudden, Team Expendables, they just, flip the switch on its head and somehow come out on top.
It's honestly, it was that wraparound by Namsi, and that's where a tiny bit of tunnel vision from Teddy paid the price, or call it maybe a tunnel vision from the whole team. Now, Jervis is trying to even things on board. He recognized that Namsi and Levi's had kind of wrapped around, so he did need to try and throw out that suppressing fire. But at the end of the day, it's easier said than done for both sides. Shen just rocking the shotgun, trying to move on board. Jun still with the Thompson in his hands, trying to create more and more of a distraction in towards this Pachinki area. Overall, I'm very impressed with the Expendables positioning inside the city.
Yeah, this is something that we saw from the Expendables, in match number 1 was the sort of roof play, right? In terms of playing on top of buildings and in high-level places like windows, for example, that worked out to their best of the abilities. I think it was June in match number 1 that we saw do that, end up finding 2 frags, or 2 kills, should I say, for his troubles. And, well, for the side of SGD, luckily for them, they are going to be able to go ahead and pick up the revive onto Teddy, and he'll live to see at least another gun engagement or 2. And there you go. You can see 2 players now from the side of Expendables elected to try and get up onto the roofs and try and be that covering fire and rain hell down from above. And, well, the squad of SGD, they didn't really expect it last time around. Are they going to be none the wiser this time too?
We're back to an even 4v4. The game is, of course, continuing to play on as we are 4 minutes in. Of course, thank you so much to the sponsors of this tournament, AOC. They not only provide a super exciting event, but also you can grab yourself more special offers within the different countries. For more information, don't forget to visit the AOC Monitor page on Facebook to keep up to date with what's going on in the world of AOC.
And don't forget, if you are very much a fan of PUBG, Crafton, the creator of PUBG, of course, will be releasing their brand new mobile game, PUBG New State. The next generation of Battle Royale is coming out very soon for you guys to get your hands on. Get your phone ready for the global launch that is taking place on the 11th of November of this year. So we're just, a matter of a week or so away from seeing what PUBG New State is very much like. I know you're excited for an avid mobile gamer yourself.
Oh yes, I know the PC Master Race people out there are scoffing at the thought of a mobile game, but I had a chance to try PUBG New State in its beta phase, and honestly, it's a very impressive game graphically, how it plays. It really is probably the closest clone to PUBG PC you'll see out there, so definitely don't be afraid to grab your phone and have a go with it. But also, Battlegrounds are going to have a go with Myth in towards the Roshawk areas. I don't think Myth know that Battlegrounds are there. That spread from Battlegrounds could prove to be very effective.
Yeah, I think it's Godace who realises that one player might still be off solo towards himself, and he's going to try and go scouting for it, while Simon and the rest of the squad of Baonam are going to try and tag those remaining players from Made in Thailand up. And well, they've somehow isolated that solo player from Myth. I think it's Jacob, if I'm right, who's left over all alone. And
yeah,
the side of Baonam, they've got him in these sights, and they're going to go hunting for probably pretty much a free frag here. This God Ace looks like he's going to try and close that gap between himself and Jacob ever so slightly, and yeah, he's going hunting, and I like this. I like this a lot from Baonam, and it's a thing we spoke about, right, in terms of putting kills early on the board and worrying about winning games later in the week.
But also, even though there was a massive risk with Jacob's repositioning, it was done for a reason. It was done for a reason initially, to try and put him closer to his teammates who were across the river to provide that level of support. But Baonam had other thoughts. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they sent pretty much the whole team across this area to pick up the kills. But this fight in Pachinki, it's still raging on. It seems like Xiaoji them are coming out on top against the Expendables.
Yeah, and what was the early knock for the Expendables and Teddy dropping, the rest comes through, and all of a sudden the tides are very much turned, and for the side of the Expendables, well, they're not going to be doing too much damage anytime soon, as the two players have dropped for them, although it is going to be Shen who falls as well. But luckily Teddy is there, his teammate ready to pick him back up. But Levis is there, he's creeping round the corner, he finds the frag, finds the second as well. Surely you got to be saying to yourself, there was so much time to play with there in terms of that revive and knock, you know, coming back through, and it's fallen apart for SGD as they had a heavy numbers advantage, which now is very much swung in the favour of the Expendables. It's going to be Uption trying to find a little bit of information as the remaining players for the side of Team Expendables go hunting and try and find these frags on the knock. It's going to be Jervis who is going to be a confirmed kill as Upchen and Teddy, well, it's a race against time to try and get that res off before the team of the Expendables go hunting. And well, now to add insult to injury, they're going to get June back on the board and put it in a 3v2.
Okay, so these are mistakes that we kind of see in, being honest, lower tier games. When you get 2 knocks, or when you get knocks and kills that put your team pretty much in the majority control of the fight, even if one of your players is knocked, don't go for the revive. Close out the team fight, then go for the revive, right? We saw the Expendables take advantage of Shuji Do pulling that mistake just like 30 seconds ago, and the Expendables did the exact same thing. Yes, they haven't lost a player off the back of it, but they certainly had the opportunity of closing out this fight a lot more easily, a lot more heavily, and a lot more quickly. But now, they're both still fighting inside Pachinki.
Yeah, and potentially not for much longer as June has other ideas as Teddy falls once again. It's all up to the solo player of Uption left alive. It wouldn't surprise me if the side of the Expendables just collapsing on this final player here to sweep up the kill and take Pachinki for their own. And well, as I say that, Levis gonna go ahead and try and aggress it, but it's June who is gonna be the one to find that final frag. And for the side of SGD, they're gonna fall out in 16th spot. And I mean, you mentioned it, it's such a rookie error, right? That you have 2 players knocked, okay, it's a 2-for-1 trade. All of a sudden, you lose 2 players and things swing out of your favour and into the opponent's favour. And for a second there, I thought we was going to see the side of PMA go huge with 2 frags, but it's going to be Colony and Momonji to find 1, and Botany trying to find some shots. He can't, and another knock's going to come through. It's Icon DKS who falls. And for the side of PMA, after a very convincing performance in the second, they are going to lose a player early on. And for the team of Colony, that's going to be a very much needed frag for them, as they've highlighted them as a team that was very consistent over the first 2 maps, and they seem to be carrying that momentum here into the third.
Look, you know, Colony have definitely shown up in these games so far, and I'm really not surprised that they are able to come into this fight in towards a cube area, which a very important part of the first couple of circles, and push out a team in this area. But DK, Baonam, It's all kicking off as teams just rotating towards the shooting range area. Out comes Show. He's going to get knocked down by the vehicle. And Baunam, yes, they're suffering casualties, but they are overall coming out on top. DK are put down to 2 players.
Yeah, I think it's a 2-for-1 trade there across the teams as Baunam only lose 1. I think it might have been Simon who fell, but they could have been flicked the damage needed for DK to just go ahead and scatter their way out of that fight. And well, for the side of DK, that is not what you wanted, to be left with 2 players so early on in the game. We're 12 minutes in with 52 players and 15 teams alive. As we start to see them rotations come through as phase 2 is got around a couple minutes left on the board until we see that phase number 3 and over towards the shooting range. There are a lot of teams, in particular the Bad Boys Alliance. They've got the squad of Kingslayers in their line of sight, not trying to be too aggressive thus far yet, though, as I think the Kingslayers team are slightly edging closer over towards shooting range. PMA.
That was just so wild, though. I can't believe, like, you have 3 teams all rotating in the same pathing line, the phase 2 in the shooting range here. Like, get that it's a strong place to rotate. But when 3-4 teams have the same idea, it's just asking for trouble. Definitely Baunam being overall the most reactive of the 3 teams that came into play.
Definitely agree with you there, as KMF1's going to find the headshot on to Cab, so knock on the board for the side of PMA, and unfortunately for them, though, the res looks like it's very much come through, but KSR and NRX, it seems like they're in a head-to-head engagement as it's going to be trades back and forth. I say the res was going to come through, but unfortunately, just as it looked like it was going to do so, Kels catches a nade to the face, and so does Killer as well, as he's now knocked, and this is a nade fest coming in from the side of PMA, and while the Colony, unfortunately, their hive just seems to not have up to the resistance.
Yeah, PMA may have been pushed out of the cube compound, but they're not going to be pushed over just yet. The 2 players, or the 3 players still left up, they've been able to reap the rewards and get the kills on the Colony. I think Colony is just Momo that's left up for their side. Indeed, Fury have taken their place, but that's a massive phase 3 shift up towards the north. The coastline is in play. Arena in the most beautiful compound you could ask for on this phase 3. But will we see 1 or 2 teams head towards that kind of coastline position? It would be very risky, but KSR, Kingsayers, it seems like they want to pull off that rotation. NRX, should I say, try and take a couple of shots off, but just not enough to get any kind of knock.
Yeah, no, X definitely in a nice little spot here at the side of Kingslayer, trying to get that rotation in early, and it's something we mentioned in game number 2 as well, when we saw the water zone and it was sort of cut off halfway across the map. You want to try and get your rotations in as quickly as possible if the zone, or phase should I say rather, shifts heavily in one favour. And well, for the side of NRX, it looks like only a little bit of splash damage done over to the side of Kingslayer, no casualties as of yet, as we are going to be looking to head towards phase 4 in just a few moments time. And you look across the board, there's been a lot of damage done across the board to each team. The squad of DXG, though, they're looking good with 4 players still remaining, Expendables and Fury also. Hikari does drop Botany, though, and there we go. We're starting to see the squad of Baunam once again try and pick up some frags. It's going to be Zest to find the kill, and that's the 20th on the board for them.
Beautiful.
As Zest is just lighting absolutely everybody up right now, as KMF1 does eventually fall. It's going to be a team wipe for the side of FTF as PMA, well, they're eliminated, and they're going to be the 15th team eliminated in the game. And you got to say huge props to the teams here. We did initially say it might have been a bit of a slower paced play, but they've not disappointed for the entertainment of the viewers at home. They've come out to play, and play is exactly what they're doing. And this is the duo from DK, as my boy and Limitless. They were the casualties of an earlier onslaught by the squad of Baunam United, and one team they don't want to run into as a duo is the squad of Team Fury, and it looks like they might be doing just that. But speaking of Team Fury, looks like they're going to try and take a few pop shots over towards our game number 1 winners of DXG, who are set up over towards just the bottom area of this plane. And right now we're in the sort of that stale stage of the game where these players are trying to get themselves positioned correctly for where, you know, the likes of phase 4, 5 and 6 zones might pop. And well, for the side of Myth, they're going to be stuck in between 2 teams of Expendables and Bad Boy Alliance, but that's not going to shy them away though, as they're going to try and find some frags.
Yeah, Team Extraordinaire sub as a full squad, hold on towards the central area of the circle. The next phase shifts up, and the winners of Game 2 from the future found a futuristic position towards the center of the circle, but their challengers in the previous game ban also find themselves in a good spot. Fury have been moving towards the southeastern edge of these circles across the game so far. We'll have to continue to move in. Myth, they committed to this area before the phase popped off, and now they're going to have to move back into the circle once again, but they're surrounded by a couple of teams.
Surrounded by a couple of teams indeed. And speaking of a couple of teams, DXG and Fury seem to be going head to head, but DK Limitless, he's going to be there to try and cause a little bit of trouble. His insight does fall. The nade though narrowly missing, as Hikaru's going to fall to Dawn on the other side of the map as well. And for the side of DXG, although it's a knock for knock, they're going to try and work on getting Logfeed back up into the game if possible. For Fury, it's Ronan. I think that smoke's just going to land on top. Well, if that one doesn't, the one afterwards most definitely will. And so unfortunately though, no player's going to fall for either side just yet, but this is going to be an engagement that we definitely will see a few more times before this game is over. As now it's going to be
a lot of smoke being used by both teams between Division X and Fury as well. So that could hurt their ability to pull anything out in terms of the late game, unless they're able to get a cleaner squad wipe and pick up whatever utility their opponents have left on board. Division X, they've been able to get themselves back up as a full squad, but so have Fury, John. And it is still Division X's fight to lose, because they do hold Fury on the edge of the circle.
Yeah, and I think if you're judging off their match 1 performance, it's sort of a situation that probably favours the side of DXG. They played fantastically well in terms of the patience on that final phase in the game that they won, and I think they could replicate that and sort of take some tricks out of their own book and hold Fury on the edge of the zone as long as possible. As God Ace, man, they're all going to go ahead and find a few knocks. It is Andy who is dropped, unfortunately, and for the squad of the Bad Boy Alliance, there's only one Bad Boy left riding solo, and it's Astro Boy this time. He's just getting tagged up from all over the place here as his car's driving through, 4 or 5 different teams. And, well, he somehow managed to come out of it in his life. As this engagement's still happening, but there we go. There's the opening kill in that engagement. And it's going to be Fury draw first blood, make it 2, as it's going to be Long KO drops as well. I think there was a trade coming back and forth. It's Insight who's knocked, but that res most likely going to come through. And from what should have been a quite comfortable hold here for the side of DXG, as soon as that phase is shifted, I think they panicked and realised.
Okay, job done. And Division X, I said it was their fight to lose, John, and that's exactly what has happened. Yeah, okay, Fury are a PUBG Global Championship team, so by no means are they an easy team to take out, but I think Division X just gave them too many gaps.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where we mentioned how good their split play was in match number 1 right towards the end. If they could have replicated it there, it was definitely looking a lot better. I think not enough team communication, and the cracks started to show, like you mentioned, and unfortunately they most definitely did fumble that one, as it's going to be the team of Fury who come out on top. But one team I've been impressed with this game that I've seen to be in the kill feed almost all the time is the squad of E-Arena, your pick for the tournament. They've picked up multiple frags towards this sort of end stage of the game, and well, the squad of Fury, they want to continue doing just that, as Papachulo's going to fall. Monty finds one, now finds the confirmation on that frag towards Escalusia, And all of a sudden, we're starting to see a really heated up end towards this game. You name it. Every single player from every team are trying to find some frags. Levis does find two. It's going to be one of the players from Battlegrounds United, though, who falls as Flood from Fury trying to tag a few up. But he thinks, hang on a minute, I can hear something in my right ear in my headset.
God.
And that's going to be Thanawat, who gets completely snapped on and dies. And well, the squad of Fury, I think they're most definitely furious with their performance after the first 2 games, and they're most definitely here to stay. We're heading into the final 10 teams, make it 9 teams remaining as a double Kobe from Sizzy to not only find 1, but drops 1-1 as well. And all of a sudden, these lobbies are turning into absolute hectic fests as we move into the final stages of phase number 5 with 8 remaining teams.
Like, what I love about Fury is that they play with such purpose when they're moving into the circles, especially from that phase 3, phase 4 onwards. It's like they move and they know exactly where they want to go, where they need to go. It might not always be the right decision, but they play it with such confidence. It's beautiful coming into third party, but they've forgotten about the last player of Colony, and Molotov gets thrown out. 1 comes in, burn it to the ground. Can they deal with the whole team? Momon comes in, he gets 2, but it's not enough. Fury finishes him off.
Momonji nearly picks up all 4, and well, I think the damage though might necessarily very much have been done, as when it's Lyrics who comes in. He's got 3 frags all in front of him, just lining up. Finds the first, the second's going to come through. Ronan actually dies to the blue as well, and what was looking so good for Fury, well, they've crumbled at the last stage as it's up to the 1 remaining player. Insight, a talented individual, but the squad of E-Arena, they smell blood and they want the frags, as I think we saw 1 more player. It might have been Sapniks pick up a frag in the process. But speaking of kills, Battlegrounds United, they're on the other side of things, picking up a couple. It's going to be Zest and Godace who combine for the final few frags onto the team for the future. So no win for them on the board this time. Sapniks still got that player in his line of sights, and you've got to be looking at the squad of E-Arena here in a fantastic spot. All 4 remaining players just left, and it's going to be one of the players, Godace from Battlegrounds United, who's most definitely going to fall here. And well, the tournament favourites, although they've got 25 kills on the board, no chicken dinners as of yet. And for the side of E-Arena, they are looking fantastically strong to potentially close this game out.
Even just Sissy pushing in towards the circle right, I talked about it. That anchor point is absolutely incredibly played from E-Arena. They know what they need to do. Luckily, with the 11 players left up, they have the majority left alive, while Zest about Battlegrounds United hears the shots of the expendables behind them, but opts to stay quiet. While NRX, 1 player inside the shack, KM99 has him in the sightlines.
Yeah, and he's just going to go for a nade fest over towards this shack. Unfortunately, only going to do a little bit of splash damage from the nade. They actually did end up finding the frag onto Insight as well, so the remaining player of Fury, well, he's no longer in the lobby. And guess what? Neither is Zest, as it's all up to the remaining player for Battlegrounds United left here. I think it is going to be the full elimination come through, and we're into our top 4 here, and well, the side of E-Arena, they are looking so strong here. All 4 remaining players. They've got Arenik left alive from NRX as the solo player, probably in the line of sight, so should be a free frag for him. Never mind.
Whoa!
KM9's gonna drop, and all of a sudden, it's numbers advantage have been tied up between themselves and Bliss. The Resdo should relatively easily come through, so that 4th player of KM99 is going to be back in the game sooner rather than later for the side of E-Arena, and well, that's going to be an RX, unfortunately, bowing out in 4th spot through the hands of June.
Like, it wasn't so much the fact that, you know, it was a kill onto a member of E-Arena. It was more the fact that that knock slowed the whole team down just a little bit, and it has allowed Team Bliss to push a little bit more confidently towards the side of the road. Yes, they still have to move across, in which they're sending 1 player there for the time being. But so far, with our 3 teams left up, the Expendables are focusing a lot more onto E-Arena, but now they're going to have to go back up north because the circle has shifted in the direction of Team Bliss.
Yeah, and this is going to be fantastic for the side of Team Bliss. As you mentioned, they've got that 1 player, I think it's Monty, who is over towards the Southwest, actually, no, they've got the duo that is going to be just completely ripping through the squad of Team Expendables here on the rotation. And you've got Citron already set up high towards the north of the phase. The rotation call has been pretty much flawless here so far from the side of Bliss, but can they hold on to this zone a lot better than they did before? Or will it be strength and numbers from the side of E-Arena, who are looking to put their first chicken dinner on the board here in the AOC Masters 2021 tournament? As Sissy going to try and take some pop shots, do a little bit of damage to that vehicle. And you mentioned how important having vehicles are towards the end of the game for that quick rotation. Well, guess what? It's not going to be a vehicle available for Levis, as that's going to be taken out of the equation, as we can see a little bit of a bird's eye view here as to how these phases might start to play out. The blue slowly starting to come in as we head into phase number 7, soon to be phase 8. And we still have a 3-way affair. June going to take some snapshots over towards Sapnik's. Only 20 or 30 odd damage done here or there, so nothing too much to worry about from E-Arena. But if you're the squad of E-Arena here, Imperial, you have to stay calm and you have to stay cool.
I think KM99 was in poor position for a side outside the circle. I don't think there's any need for him to be there. If anything, I'd like to see them send one player kind of across the road, if that's possible. I know, easier said than done. For the likes of Team Bliss, they had sent two of their players on towards that western side before the circle shifted. And upon the circle shifting, I thought they would send them back over across the road.
Unfortunately, they did not do that. Is it going to come back to bite them? Only time will tell, as we're starting to approach the half-an-hour mark here in this third match on Erangel. As it is going to be either the side of E-Arena, Team Bliss, or the Expendables, who will probably claim top spot after this in terms of the way things will work out after putting the frags into order as well. So it'll be interesting to see our live standings after this game, but Sapnix knows that every kill most definitely will count. But one thing that will count is that shot onto him from the player of June, who snaps him off for 50 odd HP. And well, the side of E-Arena, it looks like they're starting to panic a little bit here, Imperium.
Yeah, despite them having the body advantage, they're slowly but surely losing control of the circle advantage. However, beautiful Molly does put the damage onto June.
Yeah, fantastic Molly. That's going to force the push and the aggression from the side of the Expendables to slow down ever so much. But
oh no!
Oh, I think Sapnix, I don't know if the nade had hit the car and it had forced it to roll down the hill, but he's going to drop him the numbers advantage now from the side of E-Arena. What a Molly that is from the side of the Expendables. I think it was June with it. It was June to find the frag onto Sapnix. And what was a player, or a two-player advantage, should I say, for the side of E-Arena has been wiped down to absolutely nothing. As all of a sudden, the squad of the Expendables, well, they're known for being die-hard and aggressive people. They're looking to translate that over to the world of PUBG here, as they're trying to push on and aggress this fight between themselves and E-Arena. But one thing we need to mention is, while this is all happening, look at the side of Team Bliss. They've wrapped around the whole complete backside of the phase, and they're going to come in and be the cleanup crew, as all of a sudden frags are going down left, right, and centre. Levis, Monty, Xivy, they're all going to be seeing their name in the kill feed. But one player from the side of Team Bliss has dropped as the side of the Expendables finally do go out. It is going to be Rai, who unfortunately has been momentarily knocked. I do believe the res will come through pretty much completely uncontested, as it's a 3 versus 3. Lyrics has spotted one. It's going to be 6. Really be spotted. Unfortunately, a little bit of bad timing. Could have seen his head completely ripped off here. As these two teams, they're really fighting for this top spot. The side of Team Bliss, they're going to be heartbroken that they didn't win that match number 1 earlier on. Can they right the wrongs, or will it be E-Arena to reign supreme?
Team Bliss, third partying at the right moment. Credit to the Expendables. They knew they had to pull something out. It just didn't work out in their favour. Lyrics trying to hold on. Slow down. 6 Rin. Zissy moves along. KM99. Will his position prove to be fruitful? It might, but a couple of shots on. Rain gets knocked.
Yeah, Rain dropped out. It's going to be KM99 to open the affair here, but it doesn't matter. A 6 answer straight back as Lyrics drops, and it's a 2 versus 2. I'd be very surprised if you see anyone try to play for the revives here. KM though, he spotted one. He's going to spot the head of one of the players. Oh, it's a Kirby from 6 Rin to sweep up the final kills. What a Kobe from Sixrin to find all 3. And you can see it on the faces of Sixrin himself and the squad of Team Bliss. A monster nade out of Sixrin there.
Man, Clay, mate, absolutely beautiful. Team Bliss, honestly, they deserved that win. They really did. They've played so good across the first 3 games so far. They got pinched in game 1. Well, they became the pinchers of this game on towards the western side. E-Arena, I've given them a lot of plaudits, but they kind of gave that game away between both the Expendables and Team Bliss in the end. Just didn't control enough of an area of the circle, weren't as aggressive. And that's why, you know, when we used an example of the end of the last game when From the Future pushed onto Fury, right? And I said, I might not agree with it, but they still took out a team that allowed them to control the late stages of the game a lot more. That's kind of what E-Arena should have done against the Expendables. Pushed in a little bit more aggressively, dealt with them. It meant when Bliss came along, they would have been able to focus a lot more on the end fight and probably would have taken the win.
Yeah, I think you made a great point, because we actually saw them do that, though, with the squad of FTF from the future. If you remember, literally about a minute or 2 before that initial engagement we saw with the Expendables, that there was that solo player over towards the cabin who was causing them a world of trouble. We actually ended up finding a knock onto KM99 at one point. What they noticed was, okay, we're in trouble here if we let this solo player stay alive. He's going to be sort of, you know, the thorn in our backs, you could say, as he's going to be so lurky and be really uncomfortable for us to deal with. They flushed him out, found the kill, and they looked great. But I don't know why they didn't deal with that once again. And now, as soon as you guys see huge props to the side of Team Bliss here, by the way. I completely lost track of what they were even doing on the map. I don't know about yourself, Imperial, because I was so focused and engaged on the fight between E-Arena and the other remaining team. That they actually found the rotation completely free. No one was even taking shots at them as they come down from the top of the hill to rotate towards the southern side of where the phase ended up. They sweeped up, and that is a perfect example. You mentioned it there, third partying at the right time. Sometimes you can get a little bit too aggressive. You can try and find too many frags while third partying and get cleaned up. And this here from, I mean, this is probably one of the plays of the game from Momonji. I know he doesn't find any frags. Well, I mean, he gets 2, but he pretty much did all the work to ensure that Fury wasn't going to win that game. But the side of E-Arena, you got to be absolutely upset with yourself that you've somehow not won that game.
Yeah, it definitely kind of threw the game away. I was keeping an eye on what Team Bliss were doing on their rotation in towards that very late stage of the game and how they were moving around that area, and it was just wonderfully executed. I feel sorry for what happened to Team Fury because they'd done so good in that area of the map, but this was just the Expendables pushing in, and Safik's being burnt to Chris Jun. He's impressed me so much across these 3 games so far. I'm a little bit sad the Expendables were the team that got their party, to be fair.
And this is how things are sat heading into our final match of the day. And from the future, surprisingly, although they bow out pretty damn early in that game, all of a sudden, they're still top after a few frags and kills go their way in the game. But for the side of Bliss, they're going to leapfrog their way over a few teams. But if you're E-Arena, the Expendables, Battlegrounds United, or even Fury right now, you are absolutely licking your lips at the prospect that you are pretty much double, and Battlegrounds United nearly triple the kills from the future right now. If they pick up a chicken dinner, they're looking very, very comfortable for the rest of the week's worth of games.
Exactly. Hell, even going down as far as 10th, right? You take Team Extraordinaire, if they get a chicken dinner in the next game, bar whatever kills the rest of the teams get, they will probably jump into 2nd, right? That's how important it is to kind of, you know, I suppose to an extent, to still get those kills in the early days and not directly rely on the win. Yes, of course, right now, from the future Bliss, Division X can be very, very relieved and happy that they picked up a chicken dinner winner. So in this last game, we could see them play a little bit more heavy for the kills to help extend that lead and that cushion. But for the teams right down from 4th to 10th, 1 win, phew, they're shut up there.
And that's why probably The chicken dinner rule is the most loved but most hated rule within PUBG esports, all within one. You either love it when it goes for you or you hate it when it's against you. But we will most definitely be back with our final match of the day. Match 4, which is going to be back on Miramar after this short break. Don't go anywhere because me and Imperium will be back for some more PUBG AOC Masters Tournament 2021 action. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our final game here at the AOC Masters Tournament 2021. We've seen 3 outstanding games thus far, a little bit unpredictable at times as well. My name is John P. I'm joined by the lovely Imperium. And Imperium, what an event we've seen thus far in terms of our 3 maps. Something that we actually probably couldn't predict happening in terms of the way these games have actually been played.
Man, the APAC region is just steamrolling. Like it's no fear, just fight. It feels right from the offset. We're not really seeing these massively passive games. We're seeing a lot of action. Yes, the circle shifts have been definitely peculiar, or at least in the early parts of a couple of the games. But I think every winning team has been deserved winning teams, and then the teams who've gotten massive frags like Battlegrounds, the Expendables, give them one chance to get a win, and like we talked about before going to break, they'll be back up there with the teams who've already won a game. I'm excited. Like, I can't believe we're in the final game of the day, to be honest, man.
Yeah, I mean, I know ourselves, we were talking a little bit before the broadcast, we're used to maybe slightly longer lengths of games in terms of, you know, seeing 6, sometimes even 7 maps played within one day's worth of tournament play at times. Obviously, we're only seeing 4 per day here. So, yeah, it feels like the games have absolutely flown by, and they have because of just how crazy these games have been in terms of aggressive style of play. Heading back into Miramar now for our final game. And listen, if PUBG, I don't know if you're listening, the game devs that are going to drop the first phase for this next game, if you want to drop us a similar phase 1 that we saw in the last game, I will not complain at all, as that was, what, 60% off into the water, I think?
Oh yeah, and I definitely wouldn't mind that, especially if it's on that eastern side of the map, because one thing I absolutely would love to experience, and we don't get it much, I've only casted it once myself, be that island finish. You got the 2 little islands on the eastern side of the map. John, give me an island finish for this final game of the day. It would just be glorious. Absolutely glorious.
PUBG gods, you've heard what Imperium wants. I definitely am not going to complain about that either. Yeah, I think I've seen that maybe once or maybe twice in my like sort of lifespan within PUBG. It's very rare to see, but it makes for an absolute treat of a final showdown, especially in match number 4 as well. And you know, especially with the playstyles these teams are taking up. But talking about the leaderboards as well, quickly, we mentioned, and you mentioned as well, the fact that the likes of Battlegrounds, Expendables, Fury, they've all got like 20 odd frags, right? 20 odd kills throughout this whole tournament thus far. 1 win, and they leapfrogged themselves very much into that top spot. And you're going to be looking at probably match number 4 is a game that they'd want to win. Going into, you know, sort of tomorrow's action on top spot is definitely going to be a confidence builder.
It is. They don't need to, but for sure, I'm really glad you hit the nail on the head when it comes to confidence builder, right? Competitive gaming, it's all about that confidence. It's all about that mentality. That's why, despite the likes of kind of DX not having the best of games, I appreciate their aggression. That's why I love, despite Fury not winning game, the kind of purpose behind their movements, because it shows confidence. And this playing path is definitely going to leave teams feeling confident, because it is pretty much in the middle from the west to the east. Honestly, like, I don't think I've seen 4 such good playing paths in a row across these games today, John.
Yeah, we've seen some very, very intriguing drops off the rip as well. Like you said, it does mainly come down to those playing paths. We mentioned the hot drops at like Pajinki, for example, in game number 1 and game number 3, of course. And I think it's been the same sort of in games number 2 and 4, in particular El Pozo as well. It looks like Colony and the squad of the Expendables, they're going to be over there. It's very contested across. Only Los Leonas, I think, is going to be completely occupied by the side of Fury. And you know, this is a game where I think we might actually finally see our slower paced approach to it, because although there is still, 20 odd games left across the competition for the next 5 days, this is where now we want to start to see people go into the next few days ahead of them, really trying to lock down their, you know, top 4, top whatever spots going into those final few days.
Yeah, and that's absolutely spot on. They do want to kind of lock in that good position as much as possible within these games. 110% coming into the final couple of days. I'm curious with regards to this phase 1. where it's going to leave these teams positioned. It is a lot calmer, unfortunately. From our sadistic selves, as casters, we love to see the teams and players tortured, but definitely is a lot cleaner. On that western side, John, you're really going to want to see teams hold on to that kind of La Drillera area of the map, that top mountainside, and then on towards the north, you're looking at the very western edge of kind of Picado Hill / Power Grid. Those are going to be two pretty prime positions in this phase 1.
Yeah, and in particular, as any caster will tell you, the caster's curse most definitely strikes. As we say, we want an island finish, and lo and behold, PUBG gods, they put the phase completely opposite side of the map as to where we would like it to pretty much end up. So, unfortunately, we're not going to see that crazy 2-island ending, but what we will see, though, without a doubt, is some fantastic PUBG gameplay throughout the rest of this final match for you guys this evening. And make sure you guys get in touch with us and join the conversation across the social medias and within the stream as well. Let us know who you are rooting for throughout this week's worth of competition. And again, just want to highlight the terms of kills. Look at the left-hand side of your leaderboards here, Imperial. There are some teams that can definitely be in a good spot.
Oh, yeah. 25 for Bao Nam. Looks like they'll be wanting to add to that 26, possibly, as Nam C of the Expendables, rocking an AKM. They'll be playing in for this 1v1. Bao Nam didn't exactly drop in this kind of near El Pozo area, but the Expendables did. You've seen Colony get a kill onto one of the DXG players. Nam C still looking for this 1v1.
Yeah, and this is what we sometimes see quite often in terms of early engagements, right? It's not so much in terms of the head-to-head team fight. Sometimes it's the individual 1v1s, and you mentioned you don't want to take as many 1v1s as you can in a map like Miramar. There are some potentials for those early engagements, and we're seeing one right now between Dr. Logi and Namsi. As well, for Namsi, things have got from bad to worse. The Zest looks like he's going to join the club and try and find this first frag, and I like this a lot here from Bao Nam. They're really trying to impose their gameplay relatively soon.
Yeah, again, just proving themselves as a team who are going to be playing in the upcoming PUBG Global Championship stage in South Korea. They're currently self-quarantining in South Korea, preparing for the massive $2 million event. That's going to be a month-long event for now. We, of course, are inside this AOC Regional Finals Masters Tournament. And Division X Gaming picking up a couple of kills on the Colony, but they're being traded quite heavily by a team that's definitely showed their worth in today's games. And boom, they're down.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. Love that from Colony. I think they're a team that we've mentioned it and highlighted it already throughout the first 3 games we've seen in terms of consistent playing and not, being potentially a dark horse here in these regional finals. That they've really held their own. I think we've seen them hit top 5 or top 6 in endgame pretty much 4 out of 4 games or 3 out of 3 games we've seen thus far.
Yeah.
If they can continue that momentum into the next few days, that's going to be huge for them. And maybe, of course, we only know they need to pick up 1 or 2 chicken dinners and they're looking to be towards the top of the leaderboards. But one team that's always flown with confidence is the side of Bao Nam United. As you mentioned, they've got the likes of a PGC coming up out in Korea relatively soon. What is their momentum going to be like going into a tournament? Of course, still a very, very recognized stature of AOC Masters. Are they going to be taking this extremely seriously, or are we going to see them trying to practice some sort of rotation paths and maybe new drop spots, or are they going to want to just try and polish and perfect their game?
Definitely, for sure. For them, I really feel they're going to be testing waters with different drop spots, testing waters with a couple of different path lines. From the 3 games so far, I think the biggest thing they're testing is their aggression, to find the limits within terms of communication, in terms of IGLing and the calls that are being made. I think that's how they're coming into this AOC Masters Tournament Regional Finals. We'll have to wait and see if they can convert those calls, those pushes, that aggression into a chicken dinner. So far, no good, but with 25 kills, like we've already said, 1 will help do the job and put them back on top. Xiao Jidui, they've been under a lot of fire in today's games. so far. 2 Pachinki battles haven't left them looking too good, but a couple of shots from Shen onto God Ace to try and slow him down is definitely good to see from them.
Yeah, no. I just want to quickly highlight the fact that you were mentioning Bao Nam. Obviously, you're going to try and polish a few things off and get things ready for PGC. One player that seems to be playing extremely well going into PGC is Zest. He's actually accounted for 10 of the 25 frags that we've seen thus far for his team. And I mean, across the board, it's very evenly played out. And we talk about Zest. He's done 1,343 hits of damage already within 3 games. So he's averaging nearly 400 to 500 damage per game. That's nearly a full squad wipe per game you play here, Imperium. So he's performing fantastically well.
He certainly is. On a side note, and once again, thanks to Rick Saga for pointing this out to me. 6 Rin from Team Bliss. It's actually pronounced Bryn. We have a list of the players, and we also have a list of how to pronounce the names. To be fair, to our credit, we weren't told that it's pronounced Bryn, but that's how his IGN is pronounced. So apologies about that. My friend will get it right from now on. NRX also looking to get things right as they hold on to their compound against the Expendables. Well, we're 8 minutes in, and it seems like the Expendables are just going from one team to another. They have kind of, not stopped moving in towards this game.
Yeah, and sometimes we spoke about it a lot, right? In terms of, are we going to see teams start to try and change their play style or try to play the way they know they can play and what suits them best? And I think it's something you said earlier on, Imperium, in terms of you'd like to see people kind of stick to the way they like to play because it's obviously worked so well for them so long. And
yeah,
Expendables, we saw them, even going back to the last Miramar game, we saw where it was a bit of a Winchester off at the start of the game between them and DK. They're just such a team that like to play up close and personal. They don't mind just moving from fight to fight because sometimes, players just like to keep their shots nice and warm. And, even if it's something like just tagging a player up and feeling crispy from hitting a nice shot to hit someone out of a car, for example, or a vehicle, it's something that can really work in your favor. So no surprises from them. And it seems to have obviously worked from them because they're on 20 frags, right? So there's no need to really worry about that and change the way they're playing because 20 frags, they seem to be doing the job.
E-Arena, they somewhat threw the chicken dinner away in the last game, but it's still being very impressed, and it is part of the reason, despite regarding them as a little bit of an underdog team. I'd pick them for many reasons, and they've shown to be very proactive. The biggest standout thing is the anchor player when they're coming into phase 4, 5, 6, John. They've sent that player in to hold on to a position, the rest of the team covering the back line, and then they'll move in as a unit in the right way. And right now, they're looking good. Just taking a couple of pop shots towards another team in the same vicinity, while the Expendables still, as a full squad, look to get a hold onto NRX. Phase 2 has centered up, but it's also gone quite northeast with those two teams that I just talked about, right dead center in this circle.
Yeah, and I want to highlight quickly about the side of the Expendables. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were the team that was dropping towards Pachinki, correct, in the Erangel games, and we saw them have the engagements with SGB, and in those 2 games, I think they lost at least 1 player every single time. So to have had these many frags on the board with a 1 player disadvantage 9 times out of 10, it's obviously works wonders for them. And one team you mentioned, the squad of the Arena and their anchor player, and usually it's this man here, Lyrics. He performed fantastically well on Erangel time and time again to try and edge and get his team into the zone. But I'm a huge fan of the way that the squad of E-Arena are split right now. They're getting a lot of control over the map and the rotation paths. They're cutting off a lot of different angles and sort of spots where players might try and flush them out. And if you're a team like this, you're only asking for good things.
Yeah, indeed. We saw Bad Boys Alliance rotate past them, and I don't think Bad Boys Alliance have played massively badly, but they also haven't done anything in the game to even play badly, simply because they will rotate in the first 2 to 3 circles, and then circle 4 comes up and it shifts away, and they go for this Hail Mary desperation rotation that they for the most part, don't need to do. They lose 2-3 players, they're down to 1, and then they end up getting taken out. I really want to see what Bad Boys Alliance can do in a clean 4v4 fight, and hopefully it comes in this game. Because if they win it, then at least it gives me something to talk about. And hell, even if they lose it, it still gives me something to talk about.
It's a win-win situation for us casters and analysts here any time we see something like that happen. But I mean, if the squad of Bad Boys Alliance win this game, we're looking at them being, what, 3rd or 4th on the leaderboard with like 3 kills, which is absolutely insane. But that's why sometimes we love seeing the chicken dinner rule implemented into a game. As well, for the side of Fury, you sometimes mention the likes of an Anchor. It looks like Flood's going to be the player that's just trying to scout out and get a little bit of information. He's pretty much got this whole area just locked down on his own, and this is, you know, I'm glad we're starting to see this now. You know, at the start of the event, maybe these players were a little bit happy that they were on stream. They went all a little bit AWOL at times and played aggressively. And we're finally starting to see here, Imperium, that traditional sort of PUBG style of play that we love to see.
You're dead right, man. It was kind of like, oh, hi, Mom, I'm on stream, Mom, I must be impressive. Oh, let's go for kills. And now in the final game of the day, it's like things have calmed down. Their G Fuel, their Monster Energy drink, whatever you want to call it, started to run out, and the sugar levels are a little bit lower to an extent. But it's also that level of teams becoming not only a little bit more comfortable with themselves, but also comparative to the teams around them, so they know how to maybe counter-rotate them a little bit more, avoid them a bit more towards in the early game. But we have seen Phase 3 pop up, and it seems like it was another massive shift over to the west. Hopefully we can get a viewpoint on this circle in this Phase 3 shift, while Battlegrounds United, they just don't stop shooting up in multiple areas of the map. The Expendables were the team they got pushed away, and yeah, wasn't as much of a western shift as I thought, John, but definitely centralized once again towards the Expendables and NRX.
Yeah, I think it's going to start to play dividend into the likes of the Expendable style of play. They're an aggressive team. They like to take as many fights as possible, and the fact that the zone might start to send it towards them is only going to sort of play into their fundamentals of just being really aggressive. You mentioned that they were just literally going from town to town, from fight to fight, and well, I'm glad they've just come off the accelerator a little bit and tried to set up and play this a little bit more tactically, as it's going to be pivotal going into this last game, because again, they're one of those teams that are in a fantastic spot. Should they pick up this chicken dinner, they've leapfrogged themselves all the way to top spot, and they're double the kills right now with FTF, who are sitting in first at 11. And NRX is a team that I'm a little bit surprised they've not done better than they have done. I think they've been in a few spots. Fair. I think there was actually one game, wasn't there, Imperium? And you made this point. I don't know if you can remember. It was one of the games where they decided to cross a road and try and aggress a different fight when they actually had position in the phase.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that's going to go against you, but also better decision making as an IGL is something that always needs to be thought about and needs to be talked about and needs to be made across the board. Made in Thailand, they end up getting that kill on towards the rotating player DK onto Kingslayer. Fury is around this area as well on the eastern side of the map, but that's some good movement from DK.
Yeah, fantastic movement indeed, as we're going to start to see them try and aggress this second and if not third set of engagements over towards this collection of buildings, as I think that is going to be the team of Made in Taiwan and Team Extraordinaire, as it is going to be Rogan Funnel who's dropped, unfortunately for them. So Made in Thailand, they're going to be made to go back to the loading screen, apparently, as all of their team have dropped out and finished in 15th spot. But DK, this is a team that, whether it be 4 players, 2 players, they love to take engagements here, Imperium.
Yeah, and I'm always a little bit worried that they're maybe third-partying or they're spreading, taking too many fights at once. But I gotta give them credit, they're doing what they can to try and push in. As Shaoji Dui, off the back of picking up a kill, will get third-party from Fury. Fury opting to move away from Kingslayer for the most part, play into the next circle, and the shift is coming through. DK trying to move away, but they're going into the loving arms of Chujeju, so it is going to be 3 teams in this one area of the map as the circle centers up.
We're starting to head into that final stage of the game as Phase 4 is slowly coming to an end, and we head to Phase 5, and we'll start to see a bit more aggression from these teams and try and put as many kills on the board as possible and pick up that chicken dinner as Mastodon's going to fall, unfortunately. It's the Squad of Fury once again continuing the hot streak, and they know they're only a few kills behind the likes of Balnham United and E-Arena, and, well, only one chicken dinner off the top spot for the side of Fury. I love this. Look, it's that player once again. It's Flood who's, you know, just playing as that solo player at the back, really split from his team to try and catch any of those rotators coming in late from the blue. And it's going to be Insight who's not even going to... He's like, does he find the first? He doesn't. Oh, it's going to be Archon who takes the frag off of him. So a bit of disappointment there from the Squad of Fury, but a lot of chunking in the molly of the... I think, did the molly land on the car then, or the car blow up? I was a little bit confused as to what was happening. It's mixed with the dust coming off of the car and the flames of the molly, and, well, things are starting to get interesting.
DK under a lot of pressure with that circle. When they made the push towards that kind of compound that we saw being held onto by this side of Shuden, it was good, but it wasn't really kind of like that full push that we needed to see, and they end up paying the price, being third party somewhat by Fury, and they end up being taken out. They are out of the lobby. We have 10 teams left, 38 players alive, 18 minutes into the game. Fury looking very good on their Southern Edge. They've gotten close to Shuden, but they haven't gotten close enough where they're getting punished by them. So they're threading that position extremely well.
Can agree more as, well, for the side of SGD, not only have they got the likes of Fury to deal with, they have got NRX just slightly further to the northwest of them, so it doesn't surprise me that they try to hug this ridge line in the edge of the blue as much as possible to work that rotation around a different way. For the side of Balnam, you're moving fantastically well. They could not have asked for a better team to try and fight for a spot in the zone than BBA right now. Credit where credit's due to the side of Balnam. They're a fantastic team, and I don't mean to try and flame the Squad of Bad Boy Alliance right now, but surely if you're the team of Balnam here, Imperium, you're seeing it's Bad Boy Alliance and you're trying to engage this fight.
Yeah, and this is what I want to see from Bad Boy Alliance, right? This kind of clean 4v4 fight. It's definitely in the favour of Balnam, but there is that third party potential on board. Godey's being put under a lot of pressure. A couple of shots in his direction, and Nate here, Molly there, Bad Boy. Andy comes in to get the knock.
Knocks indeed, as it's gonna be. I mean, the Squad of Bad Boy Alliance must have said, hang on, John, put some respecteth upon my nameth, as they find too, as the Squad of Balnam United are going to be forced to have the duo left alive of Zest, and I mentioned already, fragging crazily out of his mind. I think I said he picked up 10 out of the 25 kills prior to the game, and guess what? Well, he's going to find at least one more, as Simon's there to find one as well.
Simon says Balnam United to come out on top, but again, credit to Bad Boy Alliance. It's what I wanted to see. They took 2 kills away. Indeed. Put some respect on their name. I think there was a little bit of a third party that came into action. Team Bliss lost Rain, but they still have Bryn, Monty, and Textile left up. They have PMA close by, but they're able to gatekeep them while Textile pushes in and gets a knock onto Simon.
Simon is going to fall, and, well, it's only up to that remaining player Zest for Balnam United. But speaking of talented players, Textile most definitely one of them, trying to find some shots over towards the players from PMA. I think it was KMF1 who was on the rotation, couldn't find any tags there, unfortunately. And Brian trying to help his teammates out as much as possible. Nade comes through, no damage done there from Monty. As well, the one thing you got to mention here as well, Imperium, is these two teams, they're both battling it out on the edge for this edge of the zone, but once that phase starts to shift again, they're going to be then forced to run into the likes of E-Arena to be in exactly the same situation as to which they've just held the opponents from. But speaking of opponents, FTF going to find a few frags, and here we go. Here comes Pete,
wow.
And there goes Bryn and Monty, as there's going to be the nade and the frag for Pete to find the kills, and all of a sudden, Botany is going to be there to help him. And, well, that is a beautiful, beautiful start to this engagement for the side of PMM. And guess what? KMF1 makes it even better as Monty, well, he's going to be confirmed to be eliminated.
And it was one of those things where I get that Texile was looking down upon the center of the circle where Baonam were kind of, or at least the edge of the circle where Baonam were there, but with one player down, you probably should have focused a little bit more heavily. And down, Team Blitz go. Nice play by PMA.
Yeah, PMA, brilliant stuff there. I wanted to see a little bit more aggression and confidence out of them. And just that, but speaking of a team with confidence and aggression, it's going to be Sheen who finds one, finds two, and Teddy's there to clean up the remaining players. Flood, Ronan, Kika, Insight, see you later, buddy, as there's no chicken dinner for you this evening. Although they're on 21 frags, it doesn't matter because the squad of SGD, they're just behind them and they want this chicken dinner to put themselves in to top spot. And for the side of Fury Imperium, you got to feel a little bit sorry for them. They seem to be doing a great job, but things aren't going their way. But Levis, he's going to know that there's one player lurking in and around this collection of buildings. I'm not too sure if he knows, though. It's going to be Namjao, who's just in the right-hand corner. Namjao finds one, finds the second as well, finds the kills. Namjao, absolutely insane. 2 frags, see you later, Expendables. I'm the better player today.
Oh, Namjao picks it up and clutches up for his team. He still has 2 players up on the higher ground, but he knew he had to stay absolutely passive. They were knocking at his door. A flash comes in around the wall. He gets the knock. He gets the second kill. This is incredible from Namjao.
Namjao putting on an absolute clinic here on how to play Miramar. That is a beautiful flashbang, by the way, Imperial. That's almost like a pop flash from a different FPS. But guess what? June's dropped as well because Dawn's found the kill. And then RX, we said that he could have done a little bit better in the last game. They've learned from their mistakes. They're not too scared this time as we head into our remaining 6 teams left alive. We mentioned that Zest's a great fragger for the squad of Baonam United, but the squad of the arena, they know he's there. He's flying. They'll be coming down the mountain when they come, my friend, and straight into the line of sight for E Arena. Zest, see you later, buddy. We're down to our top 5.
There was nothing he could do. Just hoping on a wing and a prayer that he wouldn't get spotted out by E Arena. We're there to call his name and send him back to the lobby. What a game that we're having. What a last game of the day that we're witnessing as PMA are eliminated from the future. They've already gotten a chicken dinner in today's games, John. If they get another, that's going to be 2 in the day. That clears them at the top by some distance as well.
Yeah, you know, if you pretty much say here, Imperium, they find this chicken dinner, they can afford to have not only a bad game, but probably a bad day worth of games. They probably wouldn't even have to tune into 4 of the games to say that, okay, we've got such a lead over these teams. You're probably thinking the likes of Baonam are probably the only teams that can find 2 or 3 in a row, but FTF, they don't care. They're trying to force the engagement. It's going to be Sheen who finds the confirmation of the knock on to Man. And for the squad of NRX, they can really be the nail in the coffin for FTF's potential hopes of setting up an even better looking at this game. One thing, though, I do got to highlight is E Arena are still alive with all 4
I'm not
remaining
saying
players.
it, man. I'm not saying it, man.
Don't jinx them, Imperium. Don't do it again.
I'm not, man. I'm not mentioning it, okay? They're my pick for a reason. I'm saying nothing, man.
We are going to see those 4 remaining teams. FTF, NRX, E Arena, and SGT. They're going to battle it out here for that final chicken dinner, and probably you would say as well the top at the spot on the leaderboard after the first day's worth of matches and results have been concluded. And in terms of positioning, you've got to say, surely, oh, look at that for E Arena, look at the pool on the phase. That's fantastic for them, as it's going to go ahead and go straight towards the southwest. But NRX here, they're going to be pushing in against the squad of FTF.
But it's been proven that Xiaoji Dui, John, they are not afraid of a fight in the compound, right? They fought in Bachiki 2 Wrangle games in a row. They've lost them, but now in the late stages of this final game in Miramar, they have the opportunity to push in onto E Arena. It's going to be easier said than done. NRX from the future are at a disadvantage from a player standpoint, but time is ticking down. They look to be moving away. They want to avoid their plane on towards the underside of the hill. It's good, but they also know that right in front of them is absolutely flat, barren land where they can really go nowhere with, so they might have to go back in the direction of NRX and just try and take that fight.
Yeah, but What could pull into their favour, though, is the squad of NRX. They're getting quite focused right now by the side of SGD. It's going to be Shen who's finding some tags. And this might work perfectly in the favour of FTF, as they might be able to sneak up and try and play for a third party. No, they elect to try and go back down towards, like you said, which is nothing but flat land and absolutely no cover to work with at all. And I think the squad of FTF, they're not going to get their second chicken dinner on the board, as they have got the world against them. A very, very tough spot. It's got to be an utter collapse from the other three teams, but they have got the vehicle. Oh my god, KM with a shot and a half to take out Hikaru. So, for a second I thought we were spectating KM. It wasn't. It was Shen who did find some tags. And Renek's going to drop Jervis, though, and all of a sudden, these teams are finding some tags left, right, and centre.
I gotta say, love Shen's positioning from Xiaoji Dui. He's actually helping E Arena as well, by the way, but it's some fantastic play from him. That anchor point on the western side, NRX just have to send it in. The bike comes in and knock comes through. Nothing he can do, just hope for the best is why QQ from the future was able to stay alive, sending it into the compound. We still have 4 teams up, nearly 28 minutes in.
You mentioned E-Arena. They've choked once. Are they gonna choke again? It's the good old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, my friend. As they are going from strength to strength. Sapnik's gonna find one onto Dawn. Finds the molly onto Namjiao as well. Of course, the player for that team. So go absolutely huge. But we're down to a 1v1 in terms of team players here. It's a 4 versus 4 in terms of player count. And for the squad of E-Arena and SGD, well, there's nothing really to work with. They have to move out of these buildings.
Oh my god. The advantage is in Xiao Dui. Now, a couple of side buildings can be used by E-Arena, but I can't help but feel that YQQ, who's still alive from the future, could stab E-Arena right in the back.
Oh, I completely actually missed the fact that YQQ was still alive. I thought we was down to our 2 remaining teams. That solo player from the squad of FTF could definitely, not be the best of situations for E-Arena to deal with, but you highlighted the squad of SGD in such a power spot, and power spot indeed, because Shen is a man on a mission, and his mission is to rip through any flesh, blood, and bones of the E-Arena players. As the squad of E-Arena, they are so stuck right here now, Imperium. It's going to be almost impossible to try and come out, and guess what? That's because Shen's there. Big first frag for the side of SGD, as that's going to be once again another kill going on the board for them. And well, Sizzy, although Shen again's going to find another knock. This man is insane. All he wants to do is find frags left, right, and centre. And Shen has had an absolute monster of a game thus far.
E-Arena, they're still in it though. Can they be in it to win it? It's going to be easier said than done. I can't say that so far this game definitely hasn't been ripped apart from them, but anything Shen can do, Teddy can do better. What a headshot knock on the Sapniks.
The game not ripped out of the hands of E-Arena just yet, but their head ripped off of Sapniks, as it's all up to Sissy and Lyrics alive for the squad of E-Arena. The team of SGD are put on somewhat I could say as a clinic here in how to play endgame.
Oh no!
On Miramar, but the zone gonna go ahead and somehow keep these players alive for a little bit longer, as Option finally finishes that kill off onto Zapnik's 2 versus 4. Both players in the same building. The squad of SGD, surely you gotta say strength in numbers, wins it out. There goes Sissy with the headshot of Shen. The man himself popping off for his squad. It's all up to Lyrics, and you can see the squad of SGD are going to collapse it onto the building. They're going to not find the kill. Yes, they do. As Lyrics does find one, but Shen's there again to trade. And all of a sudden, we've got ourselves a very interesting looking standings here, Imperium.
Oh my god, Xiao Ji pull it out in the final game of the day. And honestly, that was arguably the most deserved chicken dinner of the day. Playing on the high ground hill, yet Shen just headshot after headshot after headshot. E-Arena could do absolutely nothing about that. And yes, it was not an E-Arena throw, because when the circle shifted away from that compound, they were going into the barren wasteland, which we saw being controlled by the might of the Chinese Taipei team. And yeah, in the end, they just got picked apart. It was such a good ending to today's games, and from the future coming into play as well, trying to mix things up. NRX as well, nothing they could do, just a Hail Mary push with the bike. And in the end, like I said, it was Shao Dui just to really close out that game.
Yeah, you've got to say, I kind of just want to echo and repeat what you said and sound like a parrot a bit. The squad of SGD have played it fantastically, and we're even talking about the fact from the start of the game, and it was initially here where you thought they was in a tiny bit of trouble from the side of Made in Thailand, taking some shots up, but I think luckily though for the side of SGD, we just saw that there, it was the side of Extraordinaire who came in to try and force the fight towards them, but from then it was just a story of how they played the rotations.
It definitely was. It was all about how they played the rotations and kind of spreading out in the right way, which is why I talk about that being so important inside Miramar, just spreading out in the right moment. But this fight between Bad Boys Alliance and Bao Nam, I have a lot of love for Bad Boys for that fight. They did pick up 2 kills for it, but in the end, I think with a little bit of a help of a third party came in, and I think this was the game-winning fight though for Xiaoji, taking down the PGC team. Fury, it set them up.
Yeah, and this here was a beautiful solo play from
Nam
Xiao as well. The 3 kills playing off the flash as well. I mean, to be fair, he got the 2 initially, just stuck with inside that one room. And now I want to highlight the point you mentioned with that engagement against Fury. It was such a good position from both teams, and that they had to force the engagement, and whoever come out on top from that would probably look set to play very well throughout the game. This is where we saw FTF get slightly unlucky in terms of their rotation of the duo left alive, as they were caught from all angles. They go up the hill towards where NRX are. They probably end up dying. They elect to try and get in the car. They get beamed out of it, but you got to say though, what an insane ending we've had there between these teams.
It's also a little bit of an unusual ending. I would genuinely be fair to say that we don't often have circle endings in this kind of area of the map, and such a volatility just allowed for such excitement to see. But Xiaoji Dui, 3 games, had fights in Pachinki, couldn't really do much about it, but in that final game, they reap the rewards, they get the chicken dinner, and they jump up to first place. Yeah,
huge performance from them, and they're looking at a great spot now as well, as long as the likes of Battlegrounds United are on 31, Fragzy Arena and Expendables. I mean, you mentioned it though, anyone from, 5th down to, let's say even 11th 12th? Now already, or
wait,
12th.
14th?
Yeah.
No, 14th.
It's one of these things, you're still very much in the game regardless, so it's still anyone's game at this stage. We've got, 5 or 6 more days worth of action left as well, but, from the squad of Xiaoji Dui, they found fantastic performance in that last, I think they actually, was it 14 or 15 out of their 21 kills were in that last game as well. They were towards the bottom, 5, bottom 6 of our leaderboards before the start of that game. So it just goes to show you one great game and you can leapfrog your way into first place.
True. Yeah, definitely. But they do need to follow it up. They haven't been the most consistent team today. I think the most consistent team today has been From the Future when it comes to at least the chicken dinner winners at least. They showed up in the right way. Team Bliss as well, the Australian representatives, have stepped up to the plate, executing a game, and just really, it's been a hell of a show that we've seen for the 4 games. And this is only the start. We still have 5 more days of this. We still have another 20 games.
It's crazy. I know yourself, you're in the same sort of time zone as me. Maybe some of the Asian regions and Oceania regions, it's slightly later, so you're used to your blood pressure and heart rate being this high this time of night. But we started things off at 11 a.m. here in the UK, and I don't think my heart can take it, honestly, as we've still got, like you said, 20 more matches left to play. That's 5 days worth of action still to come, and it's ridiculous. We're in for an absolute show. You gotta say, huge performances from the likes of Bao Nam, Expendables, Fury, for example, all dropping 25, 30 plus kills and setting themselves up for a great week ahead. But before we close out the show, are there any final words you want to say in terms of teams and then how you thought the games went?
Yeah, look, they'll know what to do. Do a bit of VOD review here, do a bit of VOD review there. have a meeting afterwards, see what you can do, compose yourself. The one team that I really want to see step up to the plate though tomorrow is actually Kingslayers. I talked about Bad Boys. They showed up in the final game despite losing the team fight. Kingslayers, you're next.
Yeah, no pressure to say the least, guys, as you've heard Imperium what he wants, but definitely can't wait to see the next few days worth of action. But we hope you have enjoyed tuning in. Again, thank you to all our headline sponsors. We do appreciate it. We will be back here for tomorrow at the same time, I believe, for some more AOC PUBG Masters 2021 tournament action. Make sure you guys are here.
PUBG New Stage เปิดให้เล่นพร้อมกันทั่วโลก 11 พฤศจิกายนนี้